Welcome, one and all, to Disgaea of 5, the 6th game in everybody's favorite number-tastic strategy RPG series. Disgaea 5 in particular is nothing short of a massive game in terms of depth, and today I'll be diving headfirst into this monster and telling you everything you need to know in order to abuse the absolute hell out of it and get that sweet platinum. If you're new here, the goal of these guides is to get you intimately familiar with how everything in the game works, how to unlock all the content, how to efficiently power level and maximize your stats, basically an entire roadmap to get you from a new save file, all the way to the power of a god, and then all the way to the platinum trophy. Even if you've never touched a Disgaea before, I'll be breaking everything down so that hopefully it's still easy to follow. Now, Disgaea 5, more than any Disgaea game before it, goes absolutely ballistic in the amount of ways you can customize your builds, and the bulk of that is thanks to how they revamped Evilities. So I want to emphasize that there are many different ways to do many different things, and the specific builds and strategies I show in this guide for various purposes are just some commonly accepted methods that I've personally tested and are very effective. I'll be linking and crediting sources for a lot of these specific builds and strategies in the description if you want more detail. Lastly, we are of course using the Disgaea 5 complete version of the game, which is the most updated version that's available on most platforms, including PC, which is what I use. And it automatically includes all content that was previously paid DLC bundled in for free as part of the base game, so I won't shy away from referring to these extra characters and content. You can simply just accept all of it from the DLC and PC at any time. And so, without further ado, welcome to Disgaea 5 Complete. As per usual, to give this first basic info section somewhat of a structure, I like to just go over each NPC facility that you can use in the hub world one by one, and talk about all the mechanics relevant to them along the way. But even before that, let's go over some more general mechanics that may not really fit nicely and neatly into those boxes. For one, as a pretty significant change, Disgaea 5 sees strength and resistances to every damage type on characters. Up until now, only fire, wind, and ice elements interacted in this way, with the star element being the neutral element, aka no one had any resistances or weaknesses to it. Now, not only is star treated like a normal element in this way, but any weapon type now has a resistance value assigned to each unique class or character. The numbers directly correspond to what percent damage they'll take from that source. So a 20 fist resistance means they take 20% less damage from fists, minus 20 would mean they take 20% more. The cap that any weakness or resistance can be is 99. Disgaea 5 lets you equip sub-weapons. You'll notice 2 weapon slots on your character, one for main and one for sub. Your main weapon should be the one you actually want to use in battle and get stats from. The sub-weapon only contributes a fraction of its stats, but by equipping it, you can use all of its skills in addition to your main weapon skills. You'll also still get any other non-stat related benefits it would normally give you. For example, staves give you 1 extra tile range for magic skills. This extends to any non-stat related innocence that might be on that weapon as well. Historically, monster units have been very different from humanoid units, and that remains true. Not only do they have their own special weapons exclusive to them, that is, the monster weapons, with one type being attack-based and the other being int-based, but they have some special limitations like not being able to lift anything. However, they also have some unique abilities, like Magichange. Magichange lets a monster turn into a weapon for a humanoid unit to use. Simply stand next to a humanoid, select Magichange with the monster, choose which weapon slot for the humanoid you want it to go into, and voila! Each monster has a specific weapon type it turns into, and gives its own special Magichange skills that the humanoid can use with it. The humanoid also gains 3% of the monster's stats added on top of what they already had. And, here's the real kicker, the humanoid will also inherit the monster's unique Evilities. I'll go much more in depth on Evilities later, but each class or character essentially has one unique Evility they automatically start out with. Some special story characters might gain a second one later on as part of the plot, but in general, these inherent unique Evilities are highlighted in yellow, and the humanoid can get the benefit of that Evility from a monster that's Magichanged onto them, on top of all the humanoid's other Evilities. Now, with the way way Evilities work, you can have other unique Evilities inherited from other classes on a unit, but those don't transfer with Magichange, only the starting yellow ones do. And since D5 has 2 weapon slots, you can actually Magichange 2 monsters onto a humanoid unit at the exact same time. Not only that, hold on to your hats here, once you Magichange 10 times, a bill will be unlocked in the Dark Assembly that permanently gives you the ability to Magichange twice for any given weapon. So actually, you can Magichange up to 4 monsters on one humanoid at once, inheriting all of their starting unique Evilities and stats. That's a little bit crazy. One other huge benefit to Magichanging, especially being able to Magichange so much at once, is that when the humanoid gains experience, all the monsters Magichanged onto it also gain the exact same amount, so you can very efficiently power level multiple units this way. The second main ability of monsters is Mon-Toss. While they can't lift anything, they can still throw stuff. This means they can't use any lifting strategies or participate in towers unless they're at the very top, but they can still move things around, with one other added benefit. Monsters will automatically throw whatever other units or objects are thrown onto them, without using up their turn. Using Mon-Toss to initially throw something with a monster does use up the turn, but if another monster gets something thrown on top of it, and thus automatically tosses it away again, they're still free to move as they wish. A pretty major mechanic Disgaea 5 introduces is the Revenge Gauge. Every unit has this, and it's a special meter that fills under certain conditions. When the unit gets hit, when an ally gets hit, when an ally dies, or when the unit kills an enemy that's in revenge mode. When the meter is completely full for 3 turns, that unit will be in revenge mode. Being in revenge mode gives the unit 100% critical chance, skills only costing 1 SP, and minus 25% damage taken. It's a little bit busted, especially when you factor in overloads. Overloads are special skills that can only be used when in revenge mode, and only once per battle. However, only characters who are canonically overlords can have an overload, because those two words being in such close proximity isn't confusing at all. An overlord can use an overload, and an overload does not use up their turn, so they can use it on top of any other action they take. In the main story, overlords' overloads, I'm just taking the piss now, are exclusive only to them. But in post-game, some special bills unlock in the assembly that lets any unit learn a specific set of overloads, mostly ones that come from more minor overlords from the story. So ones from more important characters like Usalia or Christo won't be able to be transferred. But oh boy, can we milk it. Disgaea 5 also lets you subclass. Any unit can select a subclass through the assembly NPC at any time with no cost. Killing enemies earns you a certain amount of experience for the subclass you have equipped, based on the strength of the enemies you kill. Each subclass has 6 star ranks you can achieve, and each one gives you a little boost to your stats the next time you reincarnate. The star ranks also let the unit purchase some common type Evilities from the skill shop that are normally exclusive to that class. If you max out a subclass, which means getting all 6 stars, you can also purchase that class's unique Evility, which will be highlighted blue in the shop. Only the generic units can be subclassed, so any unique Evilities of special characters are locked only to them. Lastly, you can summon the Pocket Netherworld at any time in a map or in the item world by choosing Summon in the menu. There's a special facility in the hub world we'll talk about later called the Netherworld Editor, where you can customize what your Netherworld looks like and what effects it will have when you summon it. To summon your Netherworld, you need at least 1 bonus gauge level, and summoning your Netherworld applies a passive effect of your choosing on the map. This is also chosen in the editor. You can get more customization parts and passive Netherworld effects by defeating invaders or invaders' Netherworlds in the item world, which I'll talk more about later. So let's start going over all the different facilities in the hub world. Since I've already talked a lot about classes, the first hub world facility we'll go over is the Recruiter. Until Disgaea 5, you created units in the assembly, but they've split them out into 2 different facilities here. The Recruiter lets you create any generic class you've unlocked to use as a unit. There are 2 main types of classes, humanoids and monsters, which I've already gone over the main differences between, but another difference is the way they're unlocked. There's another facility we'll talk about called the Quest Shop, which lets you accept quests and get rewards for completing certain requirements. You know, basic RPG side quest stuff. There's a quest for unlocking every generic class you haven't already started out with. For humanoids, the requirements for completing these quests are to master certain subclasses to certain star ranks. Those star ranks can be achieved with any unit. The quests for these will only become available once you've unlocked the classes required through the other quests, so they'll keep coming in as you unlock more classes. For monsters, their quests will become available once you've killed a monster of that type in a stage, and the requirements for fulfilling the quests are generally just item fetch quests. There are 2 exceptions to this. The quest for the Celestial Host class doesn't unlock until Chapter 9, regardless of whatever other classes you have unlocked. And the quest for the Asagi generic class doesn't unlock until you've recruited real Asagi, which is a post-game thing, and have leveled her to level 5 500. The star ranks of subclasses, by the way, also pertain to all the tiers of each class. Each class actually has 6 different tiers of its own, which just slightly increase their starting base stats and some of the skills they can learn. You unlock these higher tiers by mastering their respective subclass star rank. Last note about the recruiter, the raddest thing they changed about it in this entry is that you can spend hell to automatically recruit units at higher levels. You don't have to start every unit at level 1 anymore. You can recruit units up to 80% of your highest unit's level. Since the max level in Disgaea 5 is 9,999, you'll be able to recruit units up to 7,999 once you get there. This unfortunately does not apply to reincarnation, only to initial creation. Reincarnating a unit will have them start at level 1. The Dark Assembly, or Strategy Assembly here, is where you can get senators to pass bills for a variety of benefits. Proposing a bill costs mana, which you can just get from killing enemies based on their strength, and each bill has a certain percent chance to be voted on in your favor. You'll get the opportunity to bribe senators with items to try to sway them before you start the vote, but honestly, I don't think it's worth the hassle, because if it fails, you can just pay for another chance to pass it, the chance of which will often be higher, and not to mention more save scummable. And of course, like always, you have the chance to beat the shit out of them. Winning a battle against all the opposing senators will automatically pass your bill. There are some pretty neat bills, like one that forces the unit that passed it to gain all the experience anyone else would have gained on the next map instead, starting the bonus gauge at 3 ranks automatically on the next map, the list goes on. A lot of side and post-game content is also unlocked through passing bills here, after fulfilling whatever requirements make them appear. The assembly is also where you reincarnate. You'll need some mana to reincarnate as well. Reincarnation starts the unit all the way back at level 1, but their starting stats and therefore stat growth will be significantly higher, based on some factors like the total amount of levels they've accumulated in their past reincarnations and whatever subclass ranks they've mastered. You'll also get a certain amount of free points to distribute to whatever starting stats you want, so the unit will naturally become stronger the more you reincarnate. In the case of generic classes, you can reincarnate into other generic classes, by the way, with the previous non-unique skills you've learned still intact, so there's some playing around you can do there. The skill shop is where you can manage both skills and abilities. I'll go over abilities first. Abilities are passive effects that you can place on your units. That's it, that's the entire concept, and oh boy, does Disgaea 5 love them. You'll notice that you have 2 main types to equip: unique abilities and common abilities. I want to mention first though that Disgaea 5 has a built-in function to save and load ability setups on each individual unit. Given the sheer amount of abilities in this game and the amount you're able to slap on units at a time, it can get really troublesome to keep track of all the different builds you might want to set up at different times. So I highly recommend using the save load feature, which you can access by going to a character's ability loadout and pressing X, or square on PlayStation. As far as unique abilities go, every class or character will start out with their own exclusive unique ability highlighted in yellow. This can't be changed or removed from the unit. However, units can gain up to 3 extra unique ability slots in addition to this yellow one to put in any others they want. How do you gain other units' unique abilities? You max out their subclass ranks. Maxing out all of a subclass's stars will make that class's unique ability appear in the shop for that unit to purchase, and they'll go on a unique ability slot. However, they'll only appear if the unit has empty unique ability slots to spare, because those 3 extra slots actually have to be unlocked through various means. All of those means I'll go over soon. And again, since only generic units, aka ones you can create through the recruiter, can be subclassed, this means any yellow unique ones on non-generic characters like Killia are always going to be exclusive to them. Now, as for common abilities, the ways of obtaining and transferring these are convoluted. I like to think about them in 3 distinct categories. The first are normal commons. These can just be bought by anyone right out the gate in the skill shop, simple as. These are a lot more basic and not as useful. The second are class-exclusive commons. These are abilities that will only appear in the shop for a unit if that unit has mastered certain stars of certain subclasses. Each generic unit will have their own set of abilities you can learn by mastering their subclass stars. This always applies even if you're using that unit. You need to master that unit's own subclass stars to buy their abilities. Only their yellow inherent unique ability is gotten completely by default. There is another way though, through a facility we have yet to talk about called the Chara World. When you complete a run of the Chara World, you'll be met with a bunch of different rewards. One of these rewards is turning nearly any common ability the unit knows into a scroll. That scroll can then be used on any unit to learn the ability attached to it. Skills can also be turned into scrolls this way. The third category is the same thing but for unique characters. Special characters like Killia or Usalia have their own exclusive common abilities that only they can buy from the shop, but the real difference is the way you transfer these, in that they can't be transferred by subclassing, only through the Chara World. Now, even all of these common Evilities that can be bought from the shop by all these different units don't even account for all the common Evilities you can learn. Another source of exclusive Evilities is, again, the Chara World. One of the rewards for completing a Chara World run is being able to choose from a random selection of common Evilities to learn, all of which are exclusive to this Chara World reward. And each difficulty of the Chara World introduces more to be added to this pool, which means that some Evilities can only be learned in higher difficulties of the Chara World. Then there's the Support Group Squad. This gives the members a random exclusive Evility for every 3 Chara World runs they complete, of which there are only 4. The Ability Squad gives members exclusive Evilities after completing a certain number of battles, with each squad level giving them access to a new one with a higher battle number requirement, for a total of 9 Evilities. And the very last source of Evilities is one singular Evility that will be granted to the unit that lands the killing blow on a particular post-game boss, Carnage Dark. The Evility is called Eclipse Power, and it grants 0.001% or 1/100,000th of permanent stats from every boss enemy defeated by the unit. This includes basically any enemy with the word boss over their head, but also other special item world enemies like invaders. Now, you only get a certain number of slots for both unique Evilities and common Evilities, and there are various ways to gain extra slots. For unique Evilities, up to 3 extra slots can be obtained in addition to the inherent yellow one. One extra slot is gained by passing a bill, gain a unique Evility in the assembly, but the other 2 are post-game exclusive. The second extra slot is gained by landing the killing blow on the Prinny Overlord in the last Carnage Dimension map, which is also commonly called Postgame Scenario 4. We'll go over all the postgame scenarios later. The third extra slot is even further in postgame, and it's gained by landing the killing blow on Carnage Dark, the boss of an extra Chapter 16 Carnage map you can unlock through a quest. Again, we'll go over all those maps when we get there. For common Evilities, all units start out with 5 common Evility slots, but unlike uniques, many Evilities cost multiple slots to equip. There are a total of 15 extra slots you can obtain, for a total of 20. 7 of these are through leveling up, with the 7th being earned at level 9999. An extra 5 can be gained through claiming extra slots as a reward from the Chara World. You can only get 1 at a time, and once you've claimed 5 of them, it won't let you claim any more. However, the last 3 are also gained in the Chara World through a different method. There's a special boss that can appear only on the highest difficulty of Chara World, Super Overlord. This boss is called Miss Evil, and defeating her will grant you 1 additional Evility slot. So again, you have to do this multiple times. After 3 kills, you won't gain any more. The chance of her showing up is random, but after you kill her once, you can pass a bill in the Dark Assembly to guarantee that she shows up next time you do Super Overlord. Now, there's a very sneaky distinction in Evility descriptions that's important to recognize. Some Evilities will directly raise your stats, while others will say that it raises attack. This doesn't mean the attack stat, it simply means your damage output as a whole. Both of these things come with caps. Anything that modifies your stats directly, and not just from Evilities, comes with a 100% cap. This means your stats can never go above double what they were before those modifications. The only exception to this is buffs, by which I mean support skills you have to apply with a unit like Braveheart or Magic Boost. These also come with a 100% cap, which actually means that if both caps are hit, your stats will be triple their base value on the battlefield. Evilities that increase damage output, aka the ones with attack in their description, all come with a plus 200% cap each, not in total. For example, take Assault Attack, a unique Evility that comes from the Valkyrie. This Evility increases attack or damage output by 10% per tile moved in that turn, so there's a base assumption that you'll only get this bonus up to 20 tiles, where the bonus will be plus 200% damage and it won't go up any further. But since each attack increasing Evility has its own cap, you'll still be able to get attack increases from other Evilities on top of this. This is where the real Evility strategizing comes in. Now, in the skill shop, you can also manage skills. Surprise, surprise. In particular, you can strengthen them. There are a few different sources of skills, but the main 2 are weapon skills and unique skills. Weapon skills refer to each weapon type's specific line of skills that are learned by increasing that weapon's mastery level. Each of these weapon-specific lines contains 7 different skills. The last skill that can be unlocked this way is the Tier 6 skill unlocked at Mastery 50. The secret 7th skill can only be obtained in the Chara World. There is a very low chance you'll encounter this Prinny shop when you land on a tile, and this special shop has scrolls for all the Tier 7 skills, although you can only purchase 1 at a time. However, even when you have the scroll, it can only be taught to a unit if they have at least level 50 mastery in that weapon, aka the other 6 tiers of skills are already learned. As for unique skills, these are, as the name implies, unique to only one class or character, and they're simply learned by leveling them up. They can't be transferred or shared between different classes. These are all skills with this specific hand icon. Any support skills like healing or ailments or buffs or debuffs will generally have this magic icon, which does mean they can be transferred to other units, which is done with a particular squad, called the Skillshare Squad. This one lets units in it use any weapon skill known by the leader of the squad, which includes magic skills, and once the unit levels it up at least once, they learn it permanently. Oddly enough, skills used with the Skillshare Squad don't seem to be affected by the cheat shop modifications. Even if you have 0% skill experience set at the cheat shop, you'll still get some, and likewise raising it won't increase the rate until that skill is the unit's very own. The skill shop lets you strengthen or enhance any of your skills using mana. Enhancing skills just makes them better, like doing more damage or increasing the effects of buffs. However, it also massively increases the SP cost, so it may be impractical to do so until you have enough SP. If you accidentally go overboard, you can reverse the enhancements, but you won't get your mana back. In addition to enhancing, you can also increase the area of effect of magic attacks or support spells up to a 9x9 grid. This is not the same as the range you can cast them from. The distance you can use spells from simply increases by leveling up the spell, because skills can be leveled with their own type of experience, skill experience, simply by using the skill. Leveling up a skill decreases its SP cost up to a 90% decrease at max skill level, which is 99, and again, at certain thresholds, the overall range of magic attacks or support spells will increase, letting you cast them further away. Next up, the shop, because here I can talk about items in general and how they work, so strap in. There are many different types of items in Disgaea, but the main ones come in the form of, naturally, weapons and armor. Now, here's a little secret that the game won't show you that has been consistent across every single game. Every single item has a specific rank tied to it. This is entirely its own hidden value. Ranks denote just about how strong it is compared to other items of its type. A higher rank just means a stronger item. This is especially important because when it comes to weapons and armor, there exist 40 of each of these. 40 is the max rank, so there's one for each rank. Except not exactly, there are multiple asterisks tied to that last statement, but that's the general idea. Only up to rank 34 items will ever be available in the shop. Other ranks up to 39 you can get from just about anywhere else, including stealing them from enemies, from chests, from the bonus gauge, etc. In fact, there's a special kind of item shop in the item world that will have a random assortment of items, and those can be up to rank 39. Higher ranks of items will have higher ranks of items to find in their item world. Rank 40s are very special, and there's a limited number of ways to obtain them. In fact, when it comes to non-weapons, there's only one, and that's to steal them from the Item God 2 of the rank 39 item of the same type, since the Item God 2 always has the next rank up of the item you're inside of equipped. I say non-weapons because when it comes to weapons, there are actually 3 different rank 40 variations of each weapon type, all obtained through their own methods. One is from the aforementioned Item God 2, the second type of rank 40 weapon is also found in the item world from a special mystery room that only appears inside weapons. It simply has the rank 40 type of the weapon you're inside of for the taking, but you can only take it if you have a unit with at least level 40 mastery in that weapon. And in the case of Carnage items, you need level 100 mastery in that weapon, and need to have already found another type of rank 40 for that weapon. We'll go over all these item world shenanigans in a minute. The third rank 40 type is from defeating the overlord of a rank 40 Netherworld through Netherworld Research, which is its own facility we'll cover. Another not so hidden value attached to items is their rarity. Rarity values can go from 1 to 100, although you'll naturally find values up to 50. There's a way to increase it further through the item world. Anything that gives you a training bonus will also increase your rarity, and don't worry, we'll go over the item world including training bonuses in its own section. A higher rarity value means a rarer item. The main purpose of this is to make the item stronger. Each rarity value increases the item's stats by an extra 1%, so a 100 rarity item will have plus 100% or double the stats it normally has. Any item with a value of 50 or higher is legendary, making the item look yellow. The one exception to this is a rarity of exactly 100, the max, which makes it epic, or blue. Green is rare, a step below legendary, and normal black text means it's common. Rank 40s, by the way, are always legendary. Cool thing about rarities, you actually get a small bonus for each additional item of the same rarity class you have equipped, not counting the first. It doesn't matter what the exact rarity value is, if the items share the same rarity class, they'll give you a bonus. So rare, legendary, or epic. It does not work with common items. And your sub-weapon slot doesn't count either, so that means a max of 4 items can trigger the bonus, and since the first item doesn't count, the bonus can be stacked 3 times. The bonus is different for each rarity. The highest bonus you can get, which is from epic items, is plus 5%, which means a max of a plus 15% bonus. This isn't a direct boost to base stats though, it actually increases the percentage of your aptitudes. We'll go over those soon, but these modify the actual amount of stats you get from equipping an item. You can mix and match these too, by the way, like having 2 rare items and 2 legendary items equipped. Both pairings will give you one of each respective bonus. And speaking of bonuses to your stats through equipment, it's as good a time as any to talk about masteries and aptitudes. Each unit has a special mastery level for each weapon type, which now includes armor too. The letter rank shown for each mastery correlates to how much mastery experience they get towards that piece, with S netting them the most. Mastery experience is gained simply by using that weapon, or in the case of armor, getting hit. Mastery level caps out at 100, and each level gives you a % boost to the stats you get from equipping a piece of that type. It's not exactly a 1-to-1 increase. You actually gain a 4% stat increase from that piece per level of mastery for the first 40 levels, and then it begins to decline. A mastery of 100 gives you a plus 200% boost to stats in total. Your aptitudes work in much the same way, except they're tied to the raw stats themselves as opposed to the equipment type. Each unit has a % aptitude for each specific stat, which dictates the % of that stat they actually inherit from equipment. This % isn't a boost, it's a multiplier, so 100% aptitude is just times 1 and no change. An aptitude of 110% is times 1.1 or plus 10%. You can actually increase your aptitudes through the Chara World by claiming one of the rewards. Maxing them out is extremely tedious, and for the exact process, I have a dedicated section towards the end of the guide. This means a max level mastery in a specific piece of equipment combined with a maxed out aptitude in a specific stat will net you a combined 5 times the gain in that stat from that piece of equipment. The items in the shop are always fixed, and new items become available by increasing your product rank, which you need to pass a bill at the assembly for. A new bill is available every chapter that raises your product rank by 1, up to a max of 16 by the end of the story, where the shop will start selling rank 34 items, which are the highest ranking items you can get from the shop. There's also your customer rank, which maxes out at 12. All this does is make items cheaper and sell for more, and it's raised simply by spending hell at the shop. Items from the shop never come with innocence, with the exception of specific equipment pieces that are programmed to always come with a specific unique innocent, such as the water pistol gun coming with the freezer innocent, which turns all attacks from it into water element attacks. I'll have a section dedicated to innocents and how they work. The item shop you can find in the item world, by the way, does have items that can come with innocence. Aside from equipment, you can buy some general healing and support items from the shop too. Disgaea 5 introduces items that deal damage in place of a regular attack, and you can buy hands here too, which you need to use to steal equipment off of enemies. Stealing compares your hit stat to the enemy's speed stat, along with a lot of other factors like your level versus theirs, and even the rank and rarity of the item you're trying to steal. You always have more of a chance of stealing from behind, but stealing chances are always capped at 50% for any unit, except the Thief class, which has a unique Evility that lets her have a 100% maximum chance. Because it's an Evility though, it can be transferred to anyone through subclassing. Do note that every single item you encounter up to a certain point isn't even that item's final form. There is an entirely different class of items called Carnage Items, which contains all the exact same items, but their icons are tinted red and have massively more stats than their original counterparts, as well as much more difficult item worlds. You won't encounter Carnage items until well into postgame, so I'll go into more detail then, but I thought it was worth mentioning here at least. Since we've now talked about items, let's go over the item world. The item world is among the most important facilities you will ever use, and likewise among the most complicated, although the main idea is rather simple. Clear random floors of enemies to level up the item. Essentially, you can go into any item, which will take you through an endless amount of floors. You don't have to kill the enemies to progress though. Every floor has a skip gate you can go into to automatically go to the next floor. However, in Disgaea 5, doing this will not level up the item. You have to clear every single enemy on every single floor to get a level. Item levels are actually bonus gauge rewards, with the gauge 0 reward always being +1 level. The trade-off is that item levels can also appear in other bonus gauge slots, so sometimes you're able to grab multiple levels off it, but as you can imagine, the number one most important thing for any item world strategies in this game is optimizing how quickly you can obliterate every living thing on each floor. We'll go over a few different ways to do this in its own dedicated section, but for now, we'll keep on trucking with the inner workings of the item world itself. The maximum level an item can be is level 500. Okay, the first maximum level. Technically, once you reach this, you can keep passing item assembly bills to raise the cap more and more, up to a real max item level cap of 9,999. But the stat gains from any level past 500 are only plus 0.02% each, so it's not too practical. A level 500 item will give it plus 500% more stats. Now, there are ways to gain levels outside of just killing enemies, although that is still your main source. There There are also level spheres that spawn occasionally, which give you extra levels for destroying them, as well as level fish, which give you extra levels if you clear the floor while holding it. There are different colors of spheres and fish that will give you different amounts of levels. Then there's the Fortune Teller, which you can find in a mystery room and has a chance to increase or decrease your item's levels, so engage at your own discretion. Besides strict levels, there are some extra bonuses like the kill bonus, which goes up based on the amount and strength of enemies you kill, and the training bonus, which raises the item's base starting stats when you kill bosses and mystery room enemies in the item world. I'll go a lot more in depth in all this when I talk specifically about leveling items later. While you're climbing the item world, you'll encounter mystery rooms. These are rooms you'll randomly be thrust into between floors, and there are many different types with many different effects. Some are simply shops where you can buy unique things, some exist just so you can fight the NPCs in them. A very notable one gives you a % chance to duplicate the item you're inside of, giving you an exact 1-to-1 copy, levels, innocence, and all. The list goes on. Occasionally, you'll be invaded by other netherworlds that will show up upon entering a floor that'll drop off a whole bunch of invaders and apply a passive effect across the whole map. Essentially Disgaea 5's version of pirates. They typically have higher stats than the normal item world enemies. Defeating them will increase your training bonus, and if you summon your own netherworld when an invader's netherworld is present, your netherworld has a chance of eradicating theirs and applying your passive netherworld effect instead of theirs. And again, you can also get netherworld parts or passive effects for your own netherworld through defeating invaders. Occasionally an egg will drop and spawn something random, notably lucky boards and bottle mails. Bottle mails will give you a random scroll or evility when you kill them, and lucky boards will give you a lot of a certain type of resource like mana or experience, although they have a really annoying evility that won't let you kill them unless you one-shot them. But sometimes the egg will instead contain Proto Dark Death, based on Dark Death Evilman from ZHP, of course. This is a special boss and will have wicked high stats compared to the other enemies in the item world. You don't get much for defeating him, it'll boost the item stats a bit and give you a training bonus, and is also one of the bosses you can get an extra item assembly pass from. After encountering him once, you can actually pass a bill in the assembly called Challenge a Crazy Opponent to guarantee that he spawns from the next egg that drops in the item world. Every 10th floor, you'll find an item boss. Each block of floors is split into hundreds. So on any floors between any two multiples of 100, you'll have item kings that can spawn on floors 30, 60, and 90, item gods every 100, and all other multiples of 10 will have item generals. After every 10th floor, however, you'll arrive at the Innocent Town. This is a safe floor where you'll be given the option to keep going or leave, but there are some other NPCs here too. One of them is a special shop which has a random assortment of items. Unlike the normal hub world shop, these can be rank 39 items, contain innocence, and can even be in different rarities. There's also one that lets you change the routes. You can set different routes in the item world through this NPC, which just means setting a passive effect. You can set any route you want at any time here. Routes are good for boosting item and innocent levels or to make certain things spawn more often. For example, the item enhancement route makes level spheres and fish spawn more often and will give the item 1 extra level for every 5 floors you progress. The innocent route doubles the effect of subduing innocence on top of the normal doubling that happens, by the way, making your subduing bonus times 4. The mystery route makes mystery rooms spawn more often, the invader route makes invaders spawn more often, etc, etc. Some other functions of the item world or NPC, not tied to the actual item world itself, include special rewards you can get for climbing a certain amount of total floors. A lot of these rewards come in the form of fun weapons, which are special weapons outside of the normal rank 1 to 40 line and have their own special icon. There's one of the asterisks. Most notably, they tend to come with their very own unique innocent, which gives that weapon a special effect unique only to it. Then there's the item assembly. This is much like the normal strategy assembly, but the bills you pass apply only to one specific item, and you don't use mana to pass them. You use a special new currency called item points. You get these by trading items in for them with the item world or NPC. The amount of points an item is worth heavily depends on its rank and rarity, and that amount is supercharged for Carnage items. The amount of times you can pass a bill increases with every item king, item god, or less practically Proto Dark Death you kill. So theoretically, you can have infinite passes so long as you keep killing these bosses. They're mostly used for raising the item's base stats or other stats like movement. As we'll discuss in the item leveling section, you can actually max out stats on any item of your choosing. These bills just help quicken the process. But considering that, passing bills for things you can't normally increase in other ways like movement may be more useful. Now, a very important function of the item world is obtaining rank 40 items. Every 10th floor, you'll find a special boss, classed as an item general, item king, or item god. Again, item kings on any floor ending in 30, 60, or 90, item gods every 100, and item generals on all other multiples of 10. Defeating these raises your training bonus, and the item god will always have the same item you're inside of equipped. It's not an exact copy, it'll be at level 0 with its own innocence, but it's the same type and rank. There is, however, a secret, sinister 4th type of item boss, the Item God 2. This is one of the only ways to get rank 40 items, or in the case of non-weapons, the only way. Again, there are actually 3 rank 40s of each weapon type, and this way will get you one of them. The Item God 2 will take the place of the normal Item God once the item you're in is at least level 80. The Item God 2 will have equipped not the same item, but the item 1 rank up from the one you're in. So for example, if you're inside of an Arcadia, the rank 39 emblem, you need to level that up to 80, hit the next floor multiple of 100, and the Item God 2 should be there with the rank 40 emblem equipped, the Trapezohedron. However, the Item God 2 will only appear once ever. If you pass it up, it's curtains. You'll need another fresh item and encounter the Item God 2 again from scratch if you missed your boat and want the rank 40. Now, a very closely related and very important mechanic to items are innocents. Innocents have been a day 1 staple in Disgaea. Every item you acquire, except from the shop, has a chance to have a number of random innocents in it. These are the little occupational dudes with the red, yellow, or green icons you see in item stats. Each innocent has its own special effect that will apply to a unit if it has that item equipped, based on the number of innocents of that type on it. Innocents automatically come unsubdued, which is what the red icon means. The only limitation of being unsubdued is that you can't combine unsubdued innocents. With subdued innocents, which are the yellow ones, you can combine them to make room for others. Different innocents will have different caps on how many can be in one slot. Subdued or unsubdued innocents can freely be moved between any items at any time. You can subdue innocents by finding them in the item world. Once you enter a floor, any unsubdued innocent on the item has a chance of appearing on the floor as a neutral unit. Killing this unit will subdue it. When an innocent is subdued, its value doubles from the original unsubdued value. But there are ways of getting a bigger bonus. If you happen to be on the innocent route of the item world, it'll double again, leading to quadruple the value. If the unit you subdued with is in the Hunter squad, the value will double again for 8 times the value. There is a special 3rd type of innocent, the unique innocent, denoted by a green icon. This is totally removed from your normal subdued versus unsubdued innocents. These innocents typically come on specific items by default. They're not random like normal innocents. Certain items in the game are programmed to always come with a special unique innocent, which makes some specific items desirable. A lot of these are fun weapons, but there are some normal ones like the water pistol gun that have assigned uniques as well. The deal with unique innocents is that you can only ever have one on an item at a time, and they can't be moved to other items. They're always stuck on the one they originally came from. However, you can still have somewhat of a choice on which unique innocent you can slap on an item, and that's thanks to the Item God. Whenever you kill an Item God for most weapons, you'll actually get a random unique innocent for that item. Since you can only have one at a time, all the unique innocents you've accumulated for that item will be shoved into this separate warehouse only accessible in the item assembly. There, you can switch between the unique innocents you have. There are a lot of good innocents, including ones that straight up boost your stats, ones that increase various gains like mana, experience, skill experience, etc. Some very notable ones include the Professional, which increases critical damage by 1% per innocent up to a max of 100%. In previous games, Professionals actually increased the crit chance, which was a surefire way to guarantee every hit you land is critical. But don't worry, you can still do that here through Curry, which we'll discuss later. Another notable one is the Statistician. As always, these increase experience gained by 1% per innocent, up to a max of 900%. Yes, that means a plus 900% experience boost, or 10 times the experience, just by having 900 statisticians on an item you have equipped. Subduing innocents in the item world is not the only way to grind them though in Disgaea 5, for we now have the Innocent Farm. It's kind of exactly what it sounds like. You can stick innocents in here and they'll naturally grow over time. Time here refers to battle turns, so if you keep progressing turns, your innocents will progress here. Innocents have a cap to how much they can grow though, mostly based on the value they started with, and you'll know the growth cap has been reached by the star that appears on the innocent's icon. However, if you put multiple innocents in here at once, they have a chance to breed. Yes, you can breed innocents. The resulting new innocent directly depends on the types of innocent its parents were, so each pairing produces a specific innocent. If the parents are the same, the resulting innocent will also be the same. So that's a way to guarantee you get the innocent you want. The new innocent will only be a fraction of the parents' values, and probably won't look like much at first, until the values start getting higher and higher through subduing new innocents and combining them with the parents. Combining innocents raises the growth cap too, by the way, so if the parents have hit the cap, you can combine them with the new bred innocent, and they'll keep growing from there. There's a slight danger here though. Use of the Innocent Farm requires that someone be in the Innocent Aid Squad. This squad serves the express purpose of improving your Innocent Farm. One of these so-called improvements is questionable questionable though, because level 8 of this squad makes it so that innocents are automatically born already subdued. In this case, it means double the value they would be otherwise. But remember, you can potentially get a much bigger bonus than just double by manually subduing them in the item world. And you cannot reverse squad levels. It will still work, and to its credit, you won't have to do any of the work of subduing them yourself, so everything is completely automated, but it will take significantly longer, so level this squad at your own discretion. I suppose I should talk about squads, huh? Squads are basically Disgaea 5's version of clubs, but more simple, streamlined, and useful than ever. In short, you can put any unit you want in any squad, up to its maximum capacity of course, and those units will receive some special effect based on the squad. You can also set one unit to be a leader of a squad, which may or may not matter for its effects. The squads are extremely versatile and offer a ton of different use cases and strategies. There's a squad dedicated to improving the item world, one to improving the Chara World, one that just makes you giant for a few turns when deployed. I could sit here all day and list out the insane number of effects and benefits you can get out of squads. But some immediately important ones include the aforementioned Skillshare squad, and 2 squads where units gain a portion of the experience or mana earned by the leader. Great for quickly getting weaker units some resources. There's also the Foot Soldier squad, which gives every unit inside of it plus 1% of extra stats per unit inside of it. So the more units in the squad, the more of a stat boost they get. This is also one of the squads that can hold the absolute most number of units, at 20 when it's all the way leveled up. Any squad can be leveled up using prisoners. This is something we have yet to touch on, and we will do so in the Interrogation facility section, but you can capture enemies and keep them as prisoners in the Interrogation facility. One of the uses of having prisoners is to spend them on upgrading squads. The amount of experience you get from prisoners is based on how strong they are. You can see a list of the effects each level will give a squad. Squads also give you the ability to use squad attacks in battle, which, let me tell you, can be broken beyond belief. Only units who are the leaders of their squad can use it, and even then they must be in revenge mode as well. But with those conditions met, they can use a squad attack which hits every single enemy on the map that's in the same squad as the one you targeted. Yes, enemies have their own squads, which you can see on their stats menu. The damage is reduced by 5% per enemy you hit though, so the more enemies in the squad, the less damage you do. The damage of a squad attack is based not just on the stats of the unit using it, but also how many units are in the squad in total, and how many prisoners you've put into the squad to upgrade it up to a max of 255. So ideally, you'll be using squad attacks with squads that have very high capacities, like the Foot Soldier squad. Another extremely important facility you'll get a lot of use out of is the Chara World. The Chara World lets you go into a character, much like you can do an item for the item world, and lets you strengthen that character in various ways. Beware that each time you run the Chara World on a unit, the mana cost will increase by a factor of 10, for a max of 100,000 mana each time you want to run it. The cost can be reset by reincarnating the unit. Disgaea 5 changed up the Chara World gameplay quite a bit. Instead of being like a mini item world where you're going through floors, you play Disgaea Party. Whatever character you're inside of is the one you'll be using for this. You have a set amount of dice rolls to get to the goal. Roll values are 1 to 6, and there are also enemies in the way that the unit will have to be strong enough to kill. When you encounter an enemy, you'll roll the dice, and then you'll both hit each other at the same time. The higher your number is, the more damage you deal, and the less you take. The enemies are at a set strength, which lends itself to the Chara World having multiple difficulties. You start out with the lowest difficulty, Demon, and a quest opens at the quest shop to unlock the next difficulty in Chapter 6, and from there, quests for the following difficulties will open up once you complete the previous one. The requirements for fulfilling all of these quests are just to clear a Chara World run in the previous difficulty. In typical board game video game fashion, there are blue good tiles, red bad tiles, and green who the hell knows tiles. You'll get a variety of effects, from being randomly warped somewhere, to all your dice rolls being 1 for the next 2 turns, to gaining or losing some resources like mana. There's no end to the shenanigans. There are also special shops on some tiles that'll give you Chara World specific items you can use in a run, and these items can help you out a lot, like guaranteeing moving forward a certain number of spaces, or evading a certain amount of next attacks from enemies. When you manage to make it to the goal, you can select a wide number of rewards. You can learn a random ability, which gives you a small number of randomly selected abilities to choose from that are exclusive to the Chara World. Higher difficulties will throw more exclusive abilities into the pool that can make it into this shop, meaning some abilities can only be found in higher difficulties. You can also turn a skill or common ability into a scroll, which you can then use as an item to teach that skill or ability to anyone. However, for skills, the tier of skill is dependent on the difficulty of Chara World you're in, so you're not going to be able to make a Terra magic attack, for example, into a scroll on the lowest difficulty. The same goes for Chara World exclusive abilities. To turn an ability obtained this way into a scroll, you have to be at least on the minimum difficulty of Chara World that ability can appear in. Another reward Bodyguard is gaining a new common Evility slot up to 5 separate times before it's maxed out. You can increase miscellaneous stats like jump height and movement, you can increase mastery ranks to get more mastery experience for equipment, or you can slightly raise your stat aptitudes. Any difficulty below the highest, Super Overlord, will have a cap to how far you can raise your aptitudes past their base value, and the all-time max cap any aptitude can be is 300%. Now, in any difficulty higher than the lowest, a special enemy will appear called the Dark Heart, a dark version of your unit that always has around the same stats, meaning it'll always be around the same strength. It might sound like it just comes down to raw luck of the dice whether you're able to defeat it or not, but not so. You can use some Chara World items to your advantage. Most helpfully, there are ones that increase the amount of dice rolls you roll at once, or battle slots as the game calls them, so even just using one of these vastly increases your chance of victory. Furthermore, there's a squad called the Support Squad. At level 3, that squad gives units in it the ability to learn an Evility for every 3 runs of the Chara World they complete, and this is the only way to learn those specific Evilities. One of these Evilities just straight up gives you a default of 2 battle slots no matter what. Also, if you need to, you can use an item that lets you evade a certain number of next attacks from enemies. Now, there is actually a second, more secret boss you can encounter in the Chara World that is at a set strength called Miss Evil, who only shows up randomly in the highest difficulty, Super Overlord. Defeating her will get you an extra common Evility slot, and after you defeat her once, you can pass a bill in the assembly to force her to spawn next time you do Super Overlord difficulty. You can get a max of 3 common Evility slots this way. Combined with the 5 you can get as a normal reward, that makes 8 extra common Evility slots obtainable from the Chara World. Of course, we also have the Cheat Shop. The Cheat Shop lets you manipulate the gains of a certain number of resources, those being experience, mana, skill experience, hell, and equipment mastery. Clearing the main story and progressing through the post-game will increase the amount of points you can allocate to these resources and the maximum gains they can go up to, for up to 1000% by the time you clear the Carnage Dimension post-game maps. The Cheat Shop also allows you to make enemies stronger by increasing these stars, with 20 stars setting enemies to their strongest forms. Stronger enemies will naturally give you more resources, so it's a good way to get more experience, mana, etc. for grinding if you can handle the stronger enemies. Aside from this, there are a number of different settings you can flip on and off here. For example, in post-game, the Back to Square One option will appear, which makes you able to play any map as it originally was the first time you encountered it. Also in post-game, you can make everyone heal automatically when they return to the base, completely removing the need for the Netherworld Hospital. It's an extremely helpful facility. Disgaea 5 introduces the Quest Shop. These are very basic side quest shenanigans. Quests will simply appear here and you can accept them and fulfill their requests for special rewards. There are 2 kinds of quests. Common quests, which are actually somewhat random and whose selection changes every time you return to the Netherworld, and unique quests, which are the green ones. These are your more normal kinds of quests that you can just complete once. A lot of content is unlocked through these unique quests, including extra character classes, post-game maps, higher Chara World difficulties. Always be checking here to see what's come up. Next up, the Interrogation Facility. I touched on this briefly with squads, but there's much more you can do with prisoners. First though, you can obtain prisoners by using special skills that will capture them instead of killing them. You can use these skills by putting units in the capture squad. An extremely noteworthy skill is actually Metallia's Overload, which attempts to capture every single enemy on the map. The chances to capture for any capture skill are based on normal damage calculations. This means it can be improved through things like raising your stats, damage increasing abilities, etc. The capture will succeed if the quote-unquote attack would kill the enemy. Otherwise, nothing happens and the capture fails. One other way to get prisoners is through Netherworld Research. I'll go into more detail on that soon, but research units can bring back prisoners from other netherworlds. When enemies are captured, they become prisoners in your interrogation facility, where you can then interrogate them. You must have someone in the interrogation squad to use this, and the leader of that squad will be doing the interrogating. Interrogating simply gives you a set of options, which may or may not be effective in draining the prisoner's SP. Each type of enemy has their own options they're weak or resistant to, but it's also dependent on the stats of everyone in the interrogation squad versus the prisoner's stats. Your goal then is to drain all of a prisoner's SP, because then you can get to the good stuff. Once this is done, you can either recruit that prisoner to your own team to use as a unit, or turn them into a special item called an extract. This is the only way to gain extracts, and these permanently raise the stats of the unit you use them on, with an absolute cap on extra extract stats of 10 million. This becomes extremely important in post-game, and we will we'll absolutely go over ways to quickly farm super strong extracts and get those 10 million extra stats. In Chapter 5 of the story, you'll unlock the Curry Shop. Here, you can make curry using various items as ingredients. There are a few preset recipes here, but the star of the show is the ability to throw whatever the hell items you want in it and see what happens. Eating a curry passively applies its effect to every single one of your units. Just one passive all around the board. So as you can imagine, it can be quite broken depending on your effect. And believe me, we'll mention some good effects. When making a custom curry, you choose a main ingredient, 2 sub-ingredients, and up to 1,000 of other ingredients you want. Each item you put in it will contribute a certain amount of its stats. 10% for the main ingredient, 5% for sub-ingredient 1, 3% for sub 2, and 1% for each other ingredient. The stat contribution isn't actually that important. The main reason to use curry is that specific items will give the curry special effects aside from just its stats. For example, using a sunshine rod as the main ingredient will give everyone plus 50% star resistance. And get this, a real nutso one is that the thimble will give you an increased crit chance. If used as other ingredients, they each grant plus 1%, but they're so cheap and readily available from the shop that you can easily slap 100 thimbles into a curry for guaranteed crits through the entire duration of the curry. So how long does the curry last? By default, it's only one battle, but the longer you let it sit in the shop, the longer that duration becomes. You can simply throw in the ingredients, then back out of the shop without eating it, and that curry will stay there. Every battle you clear while it's sitting will increase its duration by 1 battle, up to a maximum of 100. You can see how long a curry's been stewing in the shop. So yes, you can make an effect that lasts for 100 battles. Or I'll do you one better, infinitely, as long as you have the resources. Due to the 1-to-1 correspondence of sit time versus effect duration time, if you make a new curry at the same time you eat the one that was sitting, by the time the one you ate wears off, that new curry will be ready to eat and last another 100 turns right away. Rinse and repeat for infinite curry time. In Disgaea 5, there are many different netherworlds. Want to see everything that's out there? Look no further than Netherworld Research. This may seem complicated at first, but it really doesn't require much thought. This lets you send out units to research other netherworlds. Units sent to research can't be used in battle, but can still be placed in squads. Over time, which means the more you battle, the research will progress. You can see a progress report for each dispatched research group of what's happened so far in their expedition, including any rewards they may have gotten or prisoners they may have captured. You can pull them out at any time and they'll still bring the rewards back. There are a few neat things that can happen on the expedition though that you'll want to keep an eye out for. For one, they can find new netherworlds, so the more you research, the more netherworlds you'll get to do more research. Each netherworld also has a rank, which is talking about the same ranks that are tied to items, which means the highest netherworld rank is rank 40. When new netherworlds are discovered, they'll be about the same rank or some ranks higher than the one you were originally researching, so you'll slowly accumulate stronger netherworlds. A stronger netherworld, however, requires stronger units to research it. Even a normal rank 40 netherworld only requires a few level 8000 units to easily research though, which I say because that's about the max level you can automatically recruit units up to right away once you have the resources, so it takes no effort at all. Of course, that's in deeper postgame. Carnage netherworlds, however, are a different story, which are much stronger versions of netherworlds tinted red. You don't have to worry about these much though. Rank 40 netherworlds are neat because another thing that can happen on the expedition is that the research team can discover the overlord of that netherworld. Not just rank 40s, any. After they've discovered the overlord and you pull your team back, the option to fight the overlord will show up. If you defeat them, however, the netherworld will collapse and you won't be able to research it anymore, so make sure you already have a lot of other netherworlds to research in your list so you don't accidentally hinder yourself. Defeating the overlord of a rank 40 netherworld specifically will give you one of the 3 types of rank 40 weapons, and those rank 40s always come with the unique innocent revenge booster, which fills the revenge gauge by 20% at the start of a battle. This is the only way to find that unique innocent. Now, the Alchemist isn't unlocked until postgame, but once you do unlock it, it's fantastic. All this really does is make whatever items you tell it to make. It uses the word synthesize, which really makes it sound like you're combining items together, but that's not what's happening at all. There's a set selection of items you can choose from, and 3 slots you can use for those selections. Simply select what items you want this thing to make for you by putting them in the slots, and over time, those items will be created and automatically put into your inventory. That's it. There's a squad dedicated to improving Alchemist, alchemy by leveling it up, including shorter wait times and better items you can create. These items will include extremely useful item world stuff like Gensis and Divers, the latter of which you can use to instantly skip a certain number of floors. Also notable are fillers, which automatically fill the bonus gauge by a certain amount. You will be swimming with these items from the Alchemist at a certain point. Finally, there's the Netherworld Editor. This doesn't really serve any useful functions, but hey, you can deck out your place with it. You can customize the hub world in a bunch of different ways, including moving around your facilities, which is definitely the most use you'll get out of this thing. Walking all the way across the hub all the time to use different facilities can be a pain, but you can also purchase a bunch of different bullshit to spam in the hub. It's great. This is also where you can customize the outside of your netherworld, and of course you set your passive netherworld effect here too. That about covers it for all the facilities. There's certainly a lot, so before I start talking about the actual content of the game, like story maps, post-game unlock content, etc., I'm gonna isolate a lot of the general tips and things to keep in mind that will be extremely useful to you as you go through the game, no matter where you are. First, things to always consider for increased damage. Most basically, remember your masteries and aptitudes. Weapon mastery will give you a direct boost to stats gained by equipping each weapon type, and also for any accessory in the case of armor mastery. And aptitudes likewise give you a direct boost in each respective stat from equipping anything. The Instructor Innocent can help with mastery grinding. It has a cap of 1900 with a plus 1% gain increase per Innocent for a plus 1900% max boost. Aptitudes can be raised by grinding Chara World and accepting the aptitude raising reward. Also, buffs. The Professor class inherently learns buffs for many stats, most notably attack and int. When you enhance buffs through the skill shop, the percent they raise stats by increases. However, the Professor's unique ability, Medical Insertion, doubles the normal effectiveness of buffs. The amount of extra stats you can get from any buff caps at plus 100% of your base stats. Any buff with only a plus 4 enhancement raises your stats by 50%, so with Medical Insertion, this is all you need to bump that up to the max of 100%. Also, Christo learns some neat abilities throughout the story. His first unique makes any adjacent allies have 100% accuracy no matter what, which is already awesome, but he eventually learns a second unique called Superlative Ally. This ability has a wonky description, but what it actually does is apply a damage boost to adjacent allies based on Christo's own int stat. So it's a very good idea to keep Christo up to snuff, even if just for the sheer accuracy and damage boost he can give to allies. Consider squad attacks. Again, these target any enemies in the same squad as each other, and are based on the stats of the unit and a number of other factors like the amount of prisoners you've put towards leveling it up to 255, and the amount of members the squad has. The damage from these decreases by 5% of its initial damage output per enemy targeted at once, but they still have the potential to be broken beyond belief. And again, they can only be used by a unit who's the leader of their squad, and only when in revenge mode, and each unit can use it once per battle. Raise your combo. Attacking the same unit multiple times in a row in the same execution will raise this funny little combo number here, for 10% extra damage or plus 0.1 times per hit, for a maximum of an extra 200% of damage or times 3. If you have a bunch of ranged units fire off attacks before your actual main attacker, it's a relatively easy way to boost damage, especially with archers. Archers come with the unique ability Support Attack. This makes it so that whenever an ally within the unit's normal attack range attacks, the unit will automatically follow up with an attack of their own, independent of any other turns. Having a bunch of archers attacking at once will skyrocket your combo due to all their automatic extra support attacks. And of course, there are a number of Evilities you can use and abuse to pump up stats and damage. Scroll the Evility shop, look up ones you can get from the Chara World, and you'll find lots of good stuff. Some effective common Evilities include Heavy Stance from the Dark Knight class, which raises stats by 30% but prevents the unit from being lifted. There's also Unconditional Love from Ortina, which raises attack by 30% but you won't gain any hell. Purgatory, also from the Dark Knight, which increases critical damage by 50% straight up. And Critical Point from Peta, which increases critical damage by 30% to enemies not adjacent to the unit. I could go on and on. As for unique Evilities that can be passed around from generic classes, the Magic Knight has Elemental Force, which directly increases elemental damage by whatever percent resistance the unit has to that element. For example, 50% resistance means 50% more damage from attacks of that element. Magic Bundle from the Magician, which increases magic damage by 30% for 50% more SP cost. Angel Song from the Celestial Host, which boosts adjacent units' damage by 25%, so you can easily surround anyone with 4 of these for a 100% attack boost. Bullying from the Imp, which increases damage by 30% to enemies of the same or lower level than them. All of these are only a few examples of Evility abilities commonly used to build up damage. There's a lot to play around with here. Remember, if a common ability can only be exclusively purchased by a certain generic class, you can increase the subclass rank of that class with any other unit so they can purchase it from the shop as well. In the case of unique characters, you'll have to run the Chara World with that character to turn their exclusive common abilities into a scroll. For unique abilities, you have to fully master the subclass and have an empty unique ability slot available for them to appear in the shop. And if it's a unique ability of a unique character, not a generic class, there's no way to get it on anyone else. Remember your criticals. The Professional Innocent directly increases critical damage by 1% per innocent for a max of 100. Since crits by default deal 50% more damage than normal, a max Professional gives you a strict 150% damage increase to every crit. Then you can combine this with the right curry. The rank 1 fist, the thimble, can easily be bought in bulk from the shop for cheap. When put into curry, they each give the effect of plus 1% critical chance when used as an other ingredient. So again, you can slap 100 thimbles in here, let it stew for 100 battles so the effect lasts for 100 battles, and you will be critting 100% of the time. If you make a new curry of the same type at the same time you take the current one that's been stewing, that will have been stewing for 100 battles as well by the time the current one wears off, and you have infinite crits. The last general damage increasing method is a special strategy that sounds like a pain to set up, but it's well worth it once you do. There's a common ability exclusive to Girl Laharl called Bodyguard. This gives any male character in the same squad as the unit with Bodyguard a plus 5% damage increase. So if you turn this into scrolls and slap them on a bunch of characters in a squad, they'll all stack with each other, and all the males will get a damage boost equal to 5% times the number of Bodyguard abilities present in the squad. The largest squads can hold 20 members. And there is a workaround for females if you also have the Gender Bender ability, which you can snag from the Chara World at the lowest difficulty, Demon. It only costs 1 ability slot. Once you know this on one unit, you can keep turning it into scrolls instead of having to find it as an RNG reward over and over. This simply switches the gender of a unit to the opposite gender. It's generally not optimal to have bodyguards on the actual unit you're attacking with, as those slots are better used for abilities that'll give you higher damage outputs instead of just another plus 5%. But all the other units in the squad contributing bodyguards will give a very good chunk of extra damage. Now, if you want to gain experience fast, there are a couple good ways to do it. I'll go over some specific grinding maps right after this that get you lots of experience on their own, but here are some mechanics you can abuse on top of that to quicken the process. As always, you can increase your cheat shop gains and make enemies stronger through the cheat shop stars for even more increased gains. However, there are also statistician innocents. These innocents increase experience gain by 1% per innocent for a max of 900%. However, it's worth looking into some special Evilities as well. Included in the now base game extra characters are Valvatores and Fuka from Disgaea 4. Valvatores has a funny little exclusive common ability called Prinny Instructor. This gives any Prinny in the same squad as the unit a strict 100% increase in not just experience, but also mana and subclass proficiency. And just like bodyguards, it stacks. So a 20-member club filled with units who have Prinny Instructor equipped will give Prinnies in the club a plus 2000% increase in experience, mana, and subclass proficiency gain. That's cool and all, but at the end of the day, it's only for Prinnies, so how is it useful? That's where Fuka comes in. She has an exclusive common ability called Prinny Hat, which simply treats units who have it equipped as a Prinny. This is simply insane. Any unit in a 20-member club full of Prinny instructors who also have Prinny Hat on to be treated as a Prinny will simply get plus 2000% or 21 times the experience, mana, and subclass experience than normal. Now, just because I have no idea where else I'm gonna put this, in post-game you can actually permanently increase your dispatch limit by plus 5 for a total of 15 units to dispatch at once. After the main story, a series of 5 bills that must be passed sequentially will simply be available in the assembly, to each increase your dispatch limit by 1. The only other prerequisite for any of these besides passing the preceding bill is that for the second one you need to have cleared Postgame Scenario 1, which is something I'll touch on soon. Now I would like to finally go over the actual maps that will be useful to you along your journey, starting with some good grinding maps in the main story. These are generally ones that straight up have experience boosting geopanels on them. Some maps will also look different every time you go in them after their initial clear. The first of these is 2-1, which already is a bit of a puzzle. You can make the entire map, including the panels under the enemies, have a plus 50% experience effect by destroying the middle symbol, which will turn the entire middle and right side green, then the symbol on the right, which will make the whole map yellow, giving the experience bonus. After your first clear, 3-5 6-4 also has a plus 50% experience geo symbol, and the only enemies on the map are the 3 directly in front of the base panel. The problem is that the experience symbol is way behind those enemies. You can try to throw it all the way back with high movement characters, but even without doing all that for the experience effect, this is still a good map just because of how quick it is to clear. 6-4 has the entire map covered with both plus 50% experience tiles and plus 50% hell tiles after the first time you clear it, simple as. 10-4 after you clear it the first time simply has these 5 zombies on plus 50% geo panels. Now if you can pump up your damage output enough to handle level 99 enemies, then there's one particularly early map you can abuse the hell out of, and that is 4-2. There are some other maps you can use the same trick with, but this is early and easy, and you can get real good mileage out of it with the sheer number of enemies on the map too. I call this a trick because it really does depend on the enemies being exactly level 99. The way the experience formula works is that the experience you gain from enemies is partially based on the amount of experience needed for them to reach the next level. For whatever reason, the experience needed to go from level 99 to level 100 is far greater than it should be at that level with how level progression normally works. This means level 99 enemies give you much more experience than a level 98 or level 100 enemy would. In fact, it gives you just about the same amount of experience as a level 323 enemy would give you. You can make the enemies on map 4-2 exactly level 99 by applying 16 stars of difficulty in the cheat shop, and you're off to the races. Map 6-4, notably one of the ones that also has an experience boosting geo effect, can also make the enemies level 99 with 9 stars in the cheat shop. After the main story, there are a whole host of maps for you to unlock. The first set we'll start with is going to keep us in the spirit of grinding with the Martial Training maps. This is a set of 5 maps unlocked all throughout the post-game that all have good grinding setups, complete with experience boosting geotiles after their first completion. Now, I'm calling these post-game maps, but they're really adjacent game maps more than anything, given that 3 out of 5 of them can actually be unlocked during the main story. When you hit Chapter 8, a bill will be available in the assembly to unlock Martial Training 1. After clearing it once, it will simply have these 3 enemies, and you can even use the level 99 trick with 1-star difficulty in the cheat shop. The bill for Martial Training 2 is available in Chapter 11, and only if you've cleared Martial Training 1. Again, after you clear it, it'll have experience boosting tiles. The bill for Martial Training 3 is available in Chapter 15, and if you've cleared Training 2. The bill for Martial Training 4 is available after completing the main story and Martial Training 3. And finally, the bill for the final Martial Training map, Martial Training 5, is only available after clearing Postgame Scenario 3 and clearing Martial Training 4. Postgame Scenario 3 is titled Possessed by Heart, and we'll go over all these extra postgame scenarios right after Martial Training. Martial Training 5 is the best grinding spot in the entire game, bar none, albeit an annoying one. Not just because the first clear consists of very strong and tanky enemies on geo panels that make them even stronger and tankier, but also because after the first clear, you'll be grinding Lucky Boards. Lucky Boards are a very special type of enemy. They're not recruitable or playable as a class. Each Lucky Board has a certain resource associated with them, and they give a lot of that resource when taken down. You'll notice 5 boards here, but 4 are neutral units, meaning you only need to take down the giant one in the middle to clear the map, which happens to be an experience board, on plus 100% experience geo panels, no less. The thing about boards, however, is that their unique ability prevents them from taking any damage that won't one-shot them. If the damage is less than their max HP, it will simply be changed to 0. Again, all the tips I gave earlier apply, but I will also mention that there's an ability you can get from the Chara World on Demon Lord difficulty or above called Board Killer that straight up increases damage by 50% against lucky boards. Other post-game maps are important for various reasons. Perhaps the least important of these are challenge stages, which are a series of quests from the quest shop that become available after the main story. These simply unlock one more map per story chapter each, and clearing these challenge maps grants a legendary rank 34 of different item types upon completion. The bulk of post-game maps, besides Martial Training, consists of 4 special sets of maps simply known as Postgame Scenarios. Like Martial Training, these are all unlocked from bills in the assembly. Postgame Scenario 1, called the Phantom Copies, is available after clearing the main story, from a bill called Researcher Mysterious Netherworld. It's 100 Asagis. Have fun. Postgame Scenario 2, called the Cursed Witch, is also available simply by clearing the main story, from a build called Restore Toto Bunny, and consists of a couple of maps. Postgame Scenario 3 is available from clearing Scenario 2, and it's from a build called Pursue Powerful Energies. Postgame Scenario 4 is a bit of a doozy. This scenario is simply called Carnage Dimension, and there are a wild amount of prerequisites. The most logical one is that you have to clear Scenario 3, Possessed by Heart. Fair enough. However, there are various quests you must clear as well. a set of 4 quests will be available in the quest shop, which have you doing various post-game shenanigans. Bloodthirsty Den requires you to clear Martial Training 5, God of an Item requires you to kill an item god in the item world, Chara World Victory requires you to clear a Chara World run in Overlord difficulty, and Master Researcher requires you to discover a rank 35 or above Netherworld through Netherworld Research. Upon clearing those 4 quests, 4 more quests will open up: Violent Challenger, Beautiful Assassin, Only Victors Wanted, and Harbinger. All these quests unlock extra stages in the story that you must clear to complete the quests. Only after all of these have been completed, and Postgame Scenario 3 of course, a bill called Fight New Enemies will appear in the assembly that will open the way to Postgame Scenario 4, Carnage Dimension. This consists of 3 maps. Remember that you can earn a new unique Evility slot here by landing the final blow on the boss of the 3rd map, this Prinny. However, clearing Postgame Scenario 4 will open the way to a very special area of the game, the actual true Carnage Dimension. This is a totally separate NPC that appears in the hub world and will guide you to the exact same story maps as the normal dimension. The point of the Carnage Dimension is that the enemies here are supercharged, far stronger than the enemies in the normal dimension. This, of course, is for grinding purposes and to give you extra challenges to overcome. Not every map has a Carnage equivalent though. The only maps here are the main story maps, Postgame Scenario 1, which is the Asagi map, and Martial Training. Once you're able to handle it, Carnage Martial Training 5 goes absolutely crazy for grinding purposes. There's also the last set of post-game maps you can find that are exclusive to the Carnage Dimension, simply called Carnage Stages. Much like Challenge Stages, these unlock 1 extra map per story chapter, but only in the Carnage Dimension. These all come from quests in the quest shop and give a reward of various low-rank Carnage items. The boss of Chapter 16's Carnage map is Carnage Dark, and the quest to unlock it is called Kind of Carnage, which to this day I cannot tell if that's a typo or not. Carnage Dark is the strongest boss you'll find in his base form, short of Baal. And again, another unique Evility slot can be gained here by landing the Killing Blow on him, as well as the special Eclipse Power Evility. But there's one other aspect of Carnage I need to touch on. You see, in games past, the Carnage Dimension was simply an entirely different hub world you traveled to where you could do all the same things as normal, except with stronger enemies attached. This included the item world. However, that is no longer the case, for Disgaea 5 has introduced Carnage Items. Carnage Items are just like normal items, but much stronger. You can recognize them by their red tinted icon. You get Carnage Items in place of normal items when you're in any kind of Carnage content, which basically means Carnage maps or the item worlds of Carnage Items. As you can imagine, Carnage item worlds are far more brutal than normal item worlds, but you'll need them to not only obtain strong Carnage items, but to then strengthen them as well. Of course, you could go into some early story maps in Carnage and get some items from the bonus gauge there, as well as the special Carnage stages you unlock from quests. The Carnage items you get this way at first will naturally be of pretty low ranks, but you want the high-ranking ones. In fact, I'm going to single out a couple in particular, and you know where this is going if you've played almost any of the other Disgaea games. One of these fabled items is of course the Trapezohedron. This is a rank 40 emblem or accessory, and it boasts very high stats in every stat, at least the main 6 in HP and SP. Movement is a whole different issue, and in fact the rank 40 shoe, the Barefoot X, is preferred by more hardcore players simply because it has much higher base movement. With enough time in the item world, you can get any item to max stats, including the pitiful starting stats of the Barefoot X. I'll go over the ins and outs of how this works when I talk about item leveling, so I'll leave it up to you which item you want to focus on, but since I'm a lazy son of a bitch, I'm a Trapezohedron fan. Also note, there is one other item that rivals the Barefoot X in movement, and that is the Axle Gear. However, you only get this from defeating Baal. Normal Baal in this game is horrifically easy, and I go over the fight later in the guide, so you can actually farm these if you so wish. They have one over on the Barefoot X by having the unique Innocent Overclocker, which makes the unit teleport for faster movement and also gives them the flying ability so they can go right through enemies and obstacles. So how do you get yourself that sweet Carnage rank 40? Like with any rank 40 item, you'll have to get yourself the item of the next rank below it. In the case of Carnage Traps, this is a Carnage Arcadia, and in the case of Carnage Barefoot X, this is the Carnage Vernier Thruster. You'll then go into that item's item world and steal the rank 40 from the Item God 2. In Disgaea 5, the Item God 2 will show up in place of the Item God only if the item is at least level 80. The Item God 2 always holds the item of the next rank up, so you simply need to steal that item from it. Also, because the item god itself only shows up every 100 floors, you must wait for a floor that's a multiple of 100 after the item has reached level 80. The item god 2 will only ever appear once, so if you miss it, it's gone for good, and you need to find a fresh item to level. Alright, so how do you find these rank 39 items? You can simply find them naturally from the item world through either the bonus gauge or equipped on enemies. It shouldn't take too long if you're in a high rank Carnage item, and unlike some previous games, it doesn't need to be legendary. And luckily, there's a way to speedrun getting a high rank Carnage item thanks to our good friend, the Shroom. This class has an exclusive common evility called Errangi Fluid. This gives the unit with this evility equipped a 30% chance to obtain an SP healing item when attacked. It's not a random one. Incidentally, the SP healing item in question happens to be a mushroom soup, notably a rank 39 consumable. If you're in a Carnage area, the mushroom soup will be a Carnage mushroom soup. So simply get this equipped on a unit, go into a Carnage map or a Carnage item world, and let them get attacked until you obtain a Carnage mushroom soup. Note that this won't work if attacks miss or deal 0 damage. The chance only applies if some damage is dealt. Trust me, I learned that one the hard way. And just like that, we've got a rank 39 Carnage item to explore. However, surviving high rank Carnage item worlds may be a bit of an issue. So before we talk about leveling items, let's talk about pumping up your base stats. Your non-HP and SP stats have an initial cap of 10 million before any other additions, like stats you get from equipment, abilities, etc. This 10 million is actually fairly easy to reach. You can get there with a simple combination of subclass mastery and the Elite 4 squad. The Elite 4 squad, when fully leveled, increases stat growth of members when they level up by 100%, but they also only gain a fourth of the experience, so leveling in this squad can be tedious at first. The idea behind subclass mastery is that mastering subclasses increases your stats on your next reincarnation. So if you simply master every subclass, reincarnate, then grind all the way to level 9999 while in the Elite 4 squad, you'll end up at 10 million stats easy. Now I said simply master all subclasses, which might sound like heavy work, but there is an exploit. Meet the Sage. The Sage has many item world specific skills. One of these skills is called Geoblast, which instantly nukes a Geo symbol. This is a guaranteed kill, no matter how strong it is, which the game calls a death blow. Since subclass experience gain is based on the strength of enemies killed, if you find the strongest Geo symbol you possibly can, so something like a high-ranking Carnage item world with a 20-star cheat shop difficulty, you can use Geoblast on it to skyrocket subclass mastery. In a high enough ranked item, you'll completely master a subclass in one hit. Most of the time, some subclasses require a bit more. So you can just do this for one subclass, Gensi out, switch your subclass in the assembly, and repeat. Don't worry about wasting Gensis. If you put even one in the Alchemist, you'll be flooded with them faster than you can use them. Do this with all subclasses, reincarnate your unit, slap them in the Elite 4 squad, and level them all the way to max level for 10 million stats. Again, statisticians and the Prinny Instructor method are your friends here. And of course, once you have strong equipment as well, this process will be even easier. Carnage Martial Training 5 gets you so much experience with just a few cheat shop stars on that any other experience modifications become absolutely useless because you'll skyrocket to 9999 anyway. Now, aside from this method, there's another entirely separate method to get an extra 10 million base stats for a total of 20 million base stats. I said 10 million is the initial cap, and it is, but the one exception to this is extracts. Told you these would become important. You're likely going to be doing both of these at the same time at first just to get stronger. Extracts are a special item that permanently boosts a unit's base stats and is entirely separated from the normal 10 million cap. The cap of stats you can get from extracts specifically is also 10 million. So both of these things combined will get you 20 million base stats. Extracts are a special item you can get from prisoners by interrogating them. The strength of extracts are directly based on the strength of the prisoner, so you need very strong prisoners for effective extracts, which means very strong units to capture them. If you have weaker units, you can start out with grinding lower strength prisoners for lower strength extracts to slowly pump up your stats until you can handle more. The stats of extracts are truly permanent. Even reincarnation doesn't reset them, and you don't have to just apply extracts to one unit at a time. Since this is a usable item, you can use it on the battlefield as well. The Maid has an exclusive common ability called Licensed Caregiver, which makes it so that you can apply items on the battlefield to multiple units at a time. In fact, up to 5 at a time. So you only need one 10 million extract to apply that to 5 units. I mentioned that prisoners can be captured by using certain capture skills, but no one does it quite like Metallia. Her Overload attempts to capture every single unit on the map simultaneously. Capture skills act in the same way as normal damage calculations do, which means you can increase their quote-unquote damage through abilities, crit rates, stats, etc. except they don't actually do damage. They only capture units if the damage calc shows as a lethal hit, otherwise the capture will simply fail and nothing will happen. This means Metallia can capture many prisoners at once, limited only by her own strength. Remember Postgame Scenario 1 that I called out for having 100 Asagis, and how that map happens to be one of the only non-main story maps accessible in the Carnage Dimension? I don't think that was an accident. Slap Metallia on there in revenge mode, crank up the difficulty as high as you can take it, and capture away. Now, one glaring hole here is that Metallia does have to be in revenge mode. But not to worry, there are some Evilities that can help us out here. And in fact, I'm going to outline a build you can use if you have multiple 10 million base stat characters, particularly Metallia, Pram, and Christo. Big credit to Blue Eyes Mew for the optimization of this build. They have a great video going over it that I'll link in the description. Specifically, this is a way to grind extracts from the Carnage version of this map at 20 stars cheat shop difficulty with Metallia, Pram, and Christo at around 10 million stats. If you have them stronger, you of course have much more leeway, and the opposite holds true. You don't have to start out with 20 stars Carnage right away, of course. You can start smaller and work your way up. In fact, Martial Training 4 is also a good place to grind, since the only enemies on it are in a 3x3 formation. Capture Skill 3 from the Capture Squad has a 3x3 range, making clears of this map very quick. You can also use the Megaphone Fun weapon, which you can get from a special quest that requires having 10 prisoners at once. This has the unique Innocent Hostage Negotiator, which gives you a 30% chance to automatically capture any enemy you defeat. You can use this on Martial Training 4 or even the Asagi map with a Sage with Land Decimator, for example. But using Metallia is the absolute best method if you have the right setup and you're strong enough. Metallia can actually only capture 99 Asagis, as one Asagi is a boss unit which can't be captured. Pram's unique ability randomly attacks a unit on the map at the end of your turn, so once Metallia captures all the other Asagis, the boss Asagi will be the only one left, and Pram will nuke her automatically. Christo, as always, is just there for accuracy and damage support. You can force Metallia into revenge mode by using some sacrificial units, a nice combination of the self-sacrifice and force counter Evilities. The former is a Shroom exclusive common Evility, and it fills all allies' revenge gauge by 20% when the unit dies. The latter is a martial artist exclusive common, and it forces enemies to counterattack. The idea here is to force these units to die to boost Metallia's revenge gauge. If you don't think the units will die from the counterattack, you can also slap on Secret Recon, a ninja exclusive common, which increases movement but sets max HP to 1. You automatically gain revenge gauge when allies die anyway, so this 20% is on top of that. About 2 or 3 of these units will normally get you there. This build also makes use of Freezer Innocence to interact with a certain ability. You can equip the Water Pistol, the rank 1 gun, on Pram, and a Crab Pincer, the rank 5 attack-based monster weapon, on Metallia in either weapon slot, which both come with freezers and are both readily available in the shop. This will make all their attacks water element based for reasons that you'll see soon. The other non-Evility related aspect here is that Metallia, Christo, and Pram are all in the Giant Killer squad, which makes them all giant upon dispatch, just to increase their stats more. Being giant comes with the normally crippling downside that it replaces all of your skills with one special giant skill, called Giant Press. But you don't need skills for this, so the extra stats are nice. Of course, have a buffer with medical insertion, so you only need a +4 magic booster for 100% int stats to boost everyone's damage and Christo's damage modification. Have Christo adjacent to both Metallia and Pram, have other units surrounding them, Christo included, with the unique Evility Angel Song from the Celestial Host, and if you have the extra room, throw Curse Dance from the Sorcerer on as many units as possible, for each one to increase the damage that enemies take by 3% each. Also a unique Evility. And yes, the following Evility list for Metallia and Pram assumes 20 common slots for both, and at least 2 extra unique slots. Unique Evilities for Metallia. Elemental Force from the Magic Knight, which is why the Freezer Innocent is nice. Elemental Force turns elemental resistance into increased damage from that element. Metallia has 75% water resistance, so the Freezer Innocent turning her attacks into water equals a 75% damage increase from Elemental Force. And Bullying from the Imp for 30% extra damage against units at the same level or lower. The description just says lower level, but it also works for same level units. As for common Evilities, Purgatory from the Dark Knight to increase critical damage by 50%. You technically don't even need the crit chance curry for this since revenge mode guarantees crits anyway, but again, I'm almost always assuming you have crit curry active. Also, it helps for Pram against the boss. Shaking Excitement from the Warrior class, which increases stats by 3% per unit on the map. 100 Asagis on the map will slam into your plus 100% stat modification cap instantly. To the Death from the Lady Samurai, which increases damage by 100% but also defense by 100% when in revenge mode. Critical Point from Peta to increase crit damage by 30% to units not adjacent to Metallia. Final Boss Glare from Desco to deal 50% more damage when giant. Unconditional Love from Martina for 30% more attack but no hell gain. And finally, not for damage purposes but for interrogation illustration purposes, one of Metallia's very own exclusive common Evilities, which halves the SP of prisoners automatically when they land in the interrogation room. Pram has many of the same Evilities as Metallia, but with some differences to better suit her. Instead of the bullying unique ability, she has Acceleration Shot from the Pirate, which increases damage by 15% per tile between her and the target. Given the monumental distance between her and the Asagi boss, this hits the 200% damage mod cap with ease. Instead of Mental Pain, she has Cold Blessing, which is a common ability anyone can get automatically for 10% more water damage. Instead of Shaking Excitement, she has Desperation from the Feline class for 50% more attack but 100% less defense. As for Christo, just make sure to put some stat increasing Evilities on him, so that he has more int and thus lends more damage modification. He's already getting plus 30% from being giant, so some Evilities like Violence from Void Dark, which increases stats by 50%, and Heavy Stance from the Dark Knight, which increases stats by 30%, will get him to the 100% stat boost cap. And of course, on top of all of this, don't forget your professionals. Easier said than done. Of course, if your units are already in the 20 million range or stronger with equipment, you can trim this down a lot. This is just a hyper-optimized version of this method. The execution looks like this. Send out all your units, have your self-sacrificers die by punching an enemy and having them force counter to get Metallia, and likely everyone else, into revenge mode, buff everyone's int, use Metallia's overload to capture 99 Asagis, have Pram kill the boss by ending turns from there. Now, once you have your 99 20-star Carnage Asagis, the interrogation process begins. Once you have your interrogation squad leveled up, you can interrogate every prisoner at once. Simply select the special option when interrogating for basically the best outcome regardless. However, there's some more setup that needs to happen to do this effectively as well. For one, the leader of the interrogation squad is the one doing the interrogating, but the effectiveness is based on all the squad members' stats, so you need to make sure they're strong enough to handle these Asagis. I found that just one 20 million unit alone in the squad can handle them with ease, so the bar here isn't very high. With strong enough units in the squad, the final piece of the puzzle is a special common ability that comes from Salvatore called T-Interrogation. If you extract when the interrogating unit has this ability equipped, the extract will be about 15% more potent. So if you manage to capture and interrogate 99 20-star Carnage Asagis with this ability, the extract that comes out should have just under 500,000 in the main 6 stats. Simply repeat this over and over until you have enough to add up to 10 million stats. There's actually a build in the assembly called Condensed Mana Extract, which will automatically combine all extracts you have into one extract, so you don't have to keep using extracts over and over. Strangely, there's a cap on the stats that one single extract can hold, which is 9,999,999, one less than the 10 million cap total you can get from extracts. But close enough. If you really want to, you can just make one extra extract and slap it on. Once you have this mega extract, or you can just do it as you go if you want your units to get stronger, have someone with the licensed caregiver ability use it on any 5 of your choosing at once on a map. And presto! 10 million extra permanent base stats just like that. After extract farming and the initial 10 million from Elite 4 and subclasses, you can have 20 million base stats without any kind of equipment. This is all well and good, but stats cap out at a hard 99,999,999. Assuming half of that will come from the 100% stat modifier cap from Evilities and such, you only need 50 million to max stats. But right now, you only have 20 million. Welcome to item leveling. There are 4 main bonuses that directly contribute to an item's stats: the level of the item, the kill bonus of the item, the training bonus of the item, and the rarity of the item. I'll go over how to raise all of these, what exactly they do, and how to actually get you to max stats. Then I'll go over 3 different builds you can use to climb the item world and grind those bonuses as efficiently as possible. First, the level of the item. Each level gives a certain percent boost to the item stats. The boost isn't 1-to-1, different levels give different percentages, but it does still even out at the end with a plus 500% bonus for getting the item to level 500, the initial max level. I say initial max level because after you hit this cap, a bill opens up in the item assembly for that item for a ludicrous amount of item points to raise the cap another 500 levels. And you can keep doing this all the way to level 9,999. However, the bonus for any level past 500 is only plus 0.02%, so it's hardly worth it. You can get to max stats with a level 500 item, so that's what we'll assume. Now, item levels in Disgaea 5, again, cannot be gained by simply going into the skip portal. You need to clear the floors of enemies. You'll always get at least plus 1 level from the level 0 bonus gauge, with potentially more in higher levels of bonus gauge. Besides this, other ways to gain levels include level spheres, which randomly spawn on floors and give you extra levels for destroying them. There are 3 versions: green, which give you 2 extra levels, yellow, which give you 4, and red for 6. There are also level fish, which give you extra levels if a unit is holding one when you progress to the next floor. This is when it might be more convenient for you to just go through through the portal so you can get the item fish levels before the unit holding it dies or something. Like level spheres, there are many different colors of fish that all give you differing amount of extra levels. You can also get extra levels from a special mystery room with a fortune teller in it. Be careful though, because the fortune teller can give you a few different fortunes, one of which will decrease your item level. Use at your own discretion. Setting the item world route to the item enhancement route via the NPC in the Innocent Town will also give you 1 extra level per 5 floors, and makes level spheres and fish spawn more often. The kill bonus of an item is a special value that increases based on the strength of enemies you defeat. It's an extremely slow increase, requiring extremely strong enemies to keep a consistent rate of growth, and the higher the kill bonus is, the harder it is to raise it further. The kill bonus caps out at 400, and it's strongly recommended to grind 20-star Carnage difficulty for this, as again, it's very tough to raise. You can see your total kill bonus every time you exit an item from the item world, and that's pretty much the only time. Each kill bonus level gives you a 1% stat boost to the item, for a total of 400%. Plus 400% added to the plus 500% from item levels totals a plus 900% stat boost, or a clean 10 times the item's base stats. But we still have to actually raise those initial base stats, and that's where the training bonus comes in. The training bonus is yet another stat bonus that is not a multiplier, but a direct increase to an item's base stats, on top of which all other multipliers will be applied. An item's base stats hard cap at 99,999. The training bonus is increased by defeating special item world enemies, which include item bosses on every 10th floor, mystery room NPCs when you pick fights with them, which you can very often do by trying to talk to them a whole bunch, and item world invaders, also Proto Dark Death. The stat increase is pretty minimal, so like the kill bonus, it takes a lot of grinding. Now, some items will start at a 0 base stat, so we're gonna examine the formula here real quick to see how exactly it determines what the stat raises by for a training bonus. There are 2 parts to this which are added together. One part takes into account the item's rank and its current base stat. If an item stat starts at 0, then this whole first part likewise will result in 0. Therefore, we need to rely on the other part if we want to get it past 0. The other part factors in how many single stat innocents you have on the item. This refers to a group of innocents with the effect of directly contributing 1 of a certain stat per innocent. For example, gladiators raise your attack stat by 1 for every gladiator on the item. This means that the only way to get a base stat that starts at 0 any higher is by slapping innocents for that stat on the item. Each stack of innocents caps at 50,000, and the formula dictates that one of these stacks increases a base stat by an extra 0.5 per training bonus, or 1 for 2 max stats. Remember, the innocent farm and or subduing on the innocent enhanced routes with members of the Hunter Squad are your friends. By the way, the item assembly also has bills you can pass to directly up an item's stats, but these aren't actually anything separate. They do this by directly raising your training bonus. Increase stat a little bills are equal to plus 1 training bonus, increase stat is equal to 3, and increase stat a lot is equal to 5. As such, they're subject to the same limitations. Once the item reaches the base stat cap of 99,999, training bonuses will no longer have an effect, and you will no longer be able to pass item assembly stat bills. And again, you can get more bills by killing item kings, item gods, or Proto Dark Death. I definitely recommend passing movement bills as well though, as having more movement in general is extremely convenient. The very last aspect to item stat raising is the rarity of the item. Anytime you raise your training bonus, the item's rarity will also increase. Rarity increases the item stats by 1% per rarity value after all other multipliers, for a clean plus 100%, or double the stats for a rarity 100 item. So let's put this all together. An item hard caps at 99,999 base stats, which is achieved by raising the training bonus until this cap is reached. If a stat starts at 0, slap a ton of single stat innocents for that stat to get the ball rolling. All other multipliers are added on top of this 99,999. With a level 500 item at 400 kill bonus, which are the initial max values without limit breaking, those stats will be multiplied by 10, for 999,990 stats. Now, if that item is at rarity 100, this will double, resulting in a max possible stat of 1,999,980 before any limit breaking. The training bonus grind is the reason why strengthening a trapezohedron this way is so much faster than the Barefoot X, because it starts with much higher base stats. But technically, with enough training bonus grinding on top of everything else, you can get any item to 1,999,980 stats, which includes the Axle gear from Baal as well, which I talked about earlier. Many people find the Barefoot X better, and therefore the Axle gear even better, despite the much higher time sink because it has much higher movement, which makes many things more convenient in the future, so so pick your poison. You only need to do all this for one item, by the way, because there is an item duplication mechanic in Disgaea 5 via a special mystery room. This mystery room simply holds a sage at the top of a tall hill, and the sage has a chance to duplicate whatever item you're in. It is a direct copy with all of the same attributes. Stats, rarity, even all the innocence will be copied over. Do note that it's actually impossible to climb this mystery room to the top by default. You need a unit in the life support unit squad and level it up to get some special abilities, like being able to double and triple jump. This is the only way you can gain enough height to climb. If you're grinding for this mystery room, be sure to set the item to the mystery route, and you can also use pirates, which have an exclusive common ability called Explorer that increases the chance of a mystery room spawning next floor if they're deployed on the map. And now, with the pieces in place, we can build our way to a max stat unit. This is with taking stat modifiers from abilities, squads, etc. into account, which cap at plus 100% or double, so we're really gunning for 50 million here. You can get your initial 10 million stats through mastering subclasses, reincarnating, and getting to max level again while in the Elite 4 squad. You can get another 10 million from extracts. That leaves 30 million to go. Now, an item with 1,999,980, which we'll round up to 2 million for convenience sake, might not sound like a lot of stats, but remember everything else that can increase your stats from equipment as well. Armor Mastery gives you a plus 200% bonus to stats from equipping armor and accessories at Mastery level 100, and Max Aptitudes of 300% will multiply your stats from equipment by 300%. Together, that's a 5 times multiplier, so now you've turned your 2 million to 10 million. Duplicate the item a couple of times in the duplication mystery room for 3 of them, and hey, you've done it! You're now getting 30 million stats from equipment. Technically, we've rounded up a little bit, but we're actually still forgetting one small thing, the Same-Rarity Bonus. All your equipment being epic rarity will mean your stats get a little bit of an extra boost, which should, in fact, get you to maximum stats. Now, I have to address an elephant in the room that I've kind of glossed over, and that is the actual process of maxing out your aptitudes. It's extremely tedious, to say the least. It's done through the Chara World, but lower difficulties actually have a cap on how high you can raise your aptitudes above their starting values. So it's really only feasible to grind the highest difficulty Super Overlord, which lacks any such caps. Even then though, claiming the aptitude reward will only raise one aptitude of your choice by 5%. There are some other things you can do though. Defeating Miss Evil in Super Overlord will actually give you a special Chara World item called the Dowsing Rod. It can only be used in the Chara World, but it gives your unit 2% in all aptitudes. Also, defeating your Dark Heart raises all your aptitudes by another 1%. Farming both of these will steadily raise your aptitudes per run. Remember, you can also pass a bill before every run to guarantee that Miss Evil appears. Be careful though, because there is still a limit to how many aptitudes you can get in one given run. Before claiming the aptitude bonus reward, you can only get a 5% bonus. Using dowsing rods or anything else after this will be wasted, which means that in any given run, including the 5% bonus reward, you can only increase your aptitudes by 10%. Now, to efficiently grind in the item world for those sweet kill bonuses and training bonuses, and to just, survive, we want to set up a build that will absolutely nuke all enemies instantaneously on each floor. With 20 million base stat units, these should work on 20-star Carnage rank 40 items for maximum gains to the kill bonus. There are 3 main ways that are commonly practiced for this. In order of generally least effective to most effective, these are the Sage's Land Decimator skill, Usalia's Murmur of Rage overload, and a generic Asagi unit with the Comet Disaster overload. Actually 5 of them. All of these are map wiping skills, so the strategy for all of them is just optimizing how quickly units can execute them upon entering a floor and how much damage they can do. Blue Eyes Mew has videos on each of these setups where he optimizes them a lot. So this is mostly coming from those, and again I've tested them myself as well, and I'll leave them in the description. The first of these utilizes Land Decimator. This is a unique skill from the Sage, and as such can only be used with the Sage. It's effective because it automatically targets literally every single unit on the map. Now, there are some immediate downsides. For one, I didn't say enemy, I said units. This includes your own units. The only exception is the caster herself. The second major downside is that the accuracy of Land Decimator is capped at 50%, period. Not even Christo can save it. The only thing he can do is keep it at 50% and prevent it from going any lower, but that's it. As such, this build works to cover these weaknesses as much as possible and maximize its damage. This is accomplished by slapping the common Evility Softening Aura from the Slumber Cat on every unit involved here, which will prevent them from taking any damage from allies. It's also focused on getting the Sage to be able to use Land Decimator as many times as humanly possible in a single turn. As always, don't forget your professionals and eternal crit curry. Also have the Sage in the Foot Soldier squad to give her extra stats. Enhance land decimator to +9 in the skill shop, of course, and ideally have it be at max skill level 99 so it costs as little SP as possible, because at +9 enhancement, it will cost a lot of SP. As for the Sage's Evilities, her unique Evility will automatically give us a boost right off the bat, Mass Blaster, which increases damage by 10% per enemy unit on the map. As for other unique abilities, a crucial one is Twin Heads from the Twin Dragon, which makes the unit able to act twice if they haven't moved in the turn. So if the Sage doesn't move, she can fire off an extra land decimator, and Bullying from the Imp to do 30% more damage to enemies at the same or lower level. For common abilities, Hasty Rush can give us yet another land decimator use. This comes from Girl Laharl and lets the unit attack an extra time at the beginning of the stage. Then there's Purgatory from the Dark Knight for 50% more crit damage, Critical Point from Peta for 30% more crit damage to enemies not adjacent to the unit, Desperation from the Feline for plus 50% attack but minus 100% defense, Mana Scarcity for plus 50% damage but only 30% mana earned. Mana Scarcity can actually be gotten as a one-time bonus in the bonus gauge from map 16-3, but otherwise you can also get it in the Chara World at Overlord difficulty or higher. Then you have Unstable Power, also from the Chara World at Demon Lord difficulty or higher, for plus 50% stats, but they decrease by 20% each turn. You will hopefully not have to end turn too many times, or ideally at all. The last common Evility slot can be used for Gender Bender so you can run the Bodyguard strategy if you so wish. In the spirit of giving the Sage extra land decimator uses, you'll also want another Sage and a Maid, because they both have unique skills that let units take another turn. Sage has multi-attacker, and if you cast it on a unit before they go, they'll just automatically go twice when they take their action. The Maid refreshes a unit's turn, so after they've taken it up, you can cast Afternoon Tea so they can act again. Also have Christo. As always, he's there to lend a damage modifier for his int stat and to guarantee land decimator never falls below 50% accuracy. You can slap some stat modifying abilities on him for even more damage he can lend to the Sage, such as the common abilities of Violence from Void Dark, which increases stats by 50% but you only earn half the experience, Heavy Stance from the Dark Knight for plus 30% stats but also being unable to be lifted. If Christo is also in the Foot Soldier squad, this will hit the stat mod cap. Also, as always, a Professor or otherwise any unit with medical insertion to buff with a +4 magic boost. And again, on every single unit besides your attacking Sage, have on the common ability Softening Aura from the Slumber Cat. This negates all damage from ally attacks, so land decimator doesn't shred them all. Surround the Sage with units that have abilities that can up adjacent ally attacker stats, such as the common ability Charismatic Novice from Measle, which gives adjacent allies plus 10% stats. Also the unique ability Angel Song from the Celestial Host, which increases attack of adjacent ally units by 25% each. And it's nice to have one of them with the common ability Relaxation from the Flora Beast too, which halves SP consumption for adjacent allies, since Land Decimator uses a ton of SP. Also a bunch of deployed units can have the unique abilities Evil Eye from the Chimera, which decreases enemy stats by 5% each, and or Cursed Dance from the Sorcerer, so enemies take plus 3% more damage for each one. Very last thing, since you're hitting your own units that are right next to you, they're gonna be countering you sometimes. It probably won't cause any problems, since even if the Sage counters back, she won't do any damage due to Softening Aura. But if you don't want this happening to save time or to prevent anything weird, you can have a Pie as the Sage's sub-weapon, which is a fun weapon you can get as an item worlder reward or from this special mystery room. Once you have this set up to your liking, all this looks like is taking out your non-attacking Sage and Maid to cast extra turn skills, having Christo stand next to the Sage as well as other units with attack lending abilities, some other units just around if you have them for Cursed Dance and or Evil Eye, take out your attacking Sage last and leave her on the base panel so she can utilize Twin Heads, buff the Sage and Christo with Magic Boost, and let Land Decimator rip. The second build is completely different and instead uses Usalia's Overload, Murmur of Rage. This targets every single enemy on the map and immediately has none of Land Decimator's weaknesses. It only targets enemies and doesn't have any silly accuracy limitations. However, it does come with its own weakness of being an overload, and thus requiring Revenge mode to use. Also, you can't transfer this overload to anyone using the assembly, so Usalia is the only candidate for this. You'll also need Killia on the map because this heavily depends on Killia's special combo skill he has with Usalia that only he can use called Supreme Curry. Supreme Curry in and of itself has the effect of increasing attack, which is really nice. But this strategy more so just hinges on the fact that it is both a support skill and a combo skill. The general idea of this one is to put Usalia into revenge mode as fast as humanly possible so she can fire off Murmur of Rage and clear the map. Since Usalia is a monster unit, she can only equip monster weapons, which is important because Murmur of Rage uses either the attack stat or the int stat, depending on which type of monster weapon she has on. Int stat monster weapons are preferable simply because of Christo existing. Using a magic boost buff on everyone will up Christo's int, which will then also up the damage mod he can give to Usalia. The main way we can get her into revenge mode quickly is by using Supreme Curry. To cut to the chase, we'll look at Killia first, since he's the one who will be using Supreme Curry. For unique Evilities, Twin Heads from the Twin Dragon, which makes you act an extra time if you haven't moved in the turn. For common Evilities, Never Give Up from actual Asagi, non-generic Asagi, which makes the unit act 3 extra times when using a combo skill. So when Killia uses Supreme Curry, this makes it fire off 3 more times automatically, and then an extra time from Twin Heads, totaling 5 uses in one go. Now, you can do that again in the same turn through a number of ways. You can use another unit's skill, such as the Maid's Afternoon Tea or the Sage's Multi-Attacker, to make Killia able to act again, or to make it more convenient, you can snag the common Evility Veteran Support from PETA, which automatically lets a unit take another turn when they use support magic. However you do it, this means Killia can fire off 10 Supreme Curries just like that. To top it all off, slap on the common Evility Tension Booster from the Professor, which gives targets of support magic 10% of revenge gauge whenever the unit uses it. So, Killia using 10 Supreme Curries on Usalia equals 100% revenge gauge on Usalia equals win the game. From there, it's all about increasing damage, so let's look at Usalia. She already has some nice inherent unique Evilities, in particular Precious People, which increases damage by 20% for every adjacent ally unit. Then for other unique Evilities, there's Assault Attack from the Valkyrie, which increases damage by 10% per panel moved. Unlike Sage with Land Decimator, Usalia doesn't have to stay still. So if you load her up with high movement items as well as any other units you want surrounding her, Christo arguably being the most important and most convenient since he's only one unit, you can move them all as far away as possible after going into revenge mode for a decent amount of extra damage. Bullying from the Imp for 30% more damage to enemies at the same or lower level than you, and if you have a third extra slot you can use Magic Bundle, which increases skill damage from magic attacks by 30% at 50% more SP cost, and it also works with overloads, even though they don't cost SP, so you're just getting a 30% damage boost. As for commons, Unstable Power from the Chara World at Demon Lord difficulty or above for plus 50% stats, but they decrease by 20% each turn. To the Death from Lady Samurai for plus 100% damage but minus 100% defense when in revenge mode. Gender Bender if you're using the Bodyguard setup. Unconditional Love from Artina for plus 30% damage but no health. Purgatory from the Dark Knight for plus 50% crit damage. Mana Scarcity, which you can get as a one-time bonus on 16-3 from the bonus gauge, or in the Chara World at Overlord difficulty or above, for 50% more damage but only 30% mana gain. Critical Point from PETA for plus 30% crit damage to enemies not adjacent to the unit, and for the hell of it, you can also throw on Bounty Hunter for only one slot from the Chara World at Demon difficulty or above, which deals 30% more damage to Item World invaders. For further support, it might be a good idea to have PETA as one of your surrounding units, simply because of her inherent unique Evility, which gives plus 30% damage to adjacent overlords. Usalia is an overlord, so there you go. Otherwise, you have your usual suspects. Have Christo adjacent to Usalia with some stat mod abilities like Violence from Void Dark or Heavy Stance from the Dark Knight to lend his int stat as a damage modifier for Usalia, and otherwise be surrounded with units that have Charismatic Novice from Amizel to give Usalia more stats, Angel Song and or Cursed Dance for more damage, use Evil Eye if you can to decrease enemy stats, and buff with a plus 4 magic boost by a unit with medical insertion. And as always, don't forget your professionals and crit curry. What this looks like when executed is send out Usalia adjacent to the base panel, then all your support and other units that will be adjacent to her, including Christo and maybe PETA, then finally Killia to stay on the base panel and not move so he can make use of Twin Heads. Spam Supreme Curry so Usalia goes into revenge mode, buff her and Christo, move to another spot if you need to for that sweet assault attack bonus, and fire off Murmur of Rage. That brings us to our final and most effective setup, Comet Disaster, yet another overload. Again, this targets all enemies and has the potential for full accuracy. It's also a star element attack. This time it comes from Mizuna, a minor overlord you meet during the story, and her overload can be transferred to anyone with a bill in the assembly called I Want Azuna's Overlord in the postgame. The most effective candidate for this is the generic Asagi class, simply because she automatically comes with high star resistance, and since Comet Disaster is a star element skill, we can use the unique Evility Elemental Force to directly convert that into extra damage. So again, much like Murmur of Rage, the goal here is to put Asagi into revenge mode as fast as possible so she can fire off Comet Disaster. There is a special unique innocent called the Revenge Booster. This comes automatically on certain types of rank 40 weapons, specifically ones you get from defeating the overlords of rank 40 Netherworld through Netherworld Research. You're guaranteed to get one from any rank 40 Netherworld Netherworld Research Overlord you defeat. This automatically starts the unit with an extra 20% of revenge gauge. As such, you will need, hold on to your hats here, 5 Asagis for this. The idea here is that you can just grind an easy map 5 times to fill all the revenge meters. This makes it so every Asagi you deploy will automatically be in revenge mode, and once you cycle through all of them, the first Asagi you used will have a revenge mode filled again, from that 20% revenge meter boost over the course of 5 maps, and you just infinitely cycle as so. The good news, there's really only one unit's build you have to worry about. Bad news, you need to set up that build 5 times over. But first, before I rapid fire Evilities, some extra setup. We mentioned getting 5 revenge booster weapons. However, another benefit of using Asagi besides her star resistance is that there's an entire squad dedicating to raising her stats, the Asagi fan club. The Asagis themselves don't even have to be in it. Simply loading it up with whatever units you want will give Asagi, when the squad is maxed out, plus 30% extra stats. Neat. Also, since your Asagis don't have to be in the Asagi fan club for the extra stats, that means you're free to put them in the Foot Soldier squad instead for 20% more extra stats. Now you're automatically starting with 50% out of the 100% cap. I mentioned we're using Elemental Force to convert star resistance into damage, so let's get that star resistance up even higher. If you make a curry with a Sunshine Rod, which is readily accessible at the shop, as your main ingredient, it gives the curry a plus 50% star resistance effect. And then you can still load it up with 100 Thimbles as other ingredients to keep your 100% crit chance effect. On top of Asagi's starting star resistance of 50%, this curry will shoot her up to the maximum resistance of 99%. With Elemental Force, this gives her 99% of extra damage with star element attacks. Now, for the abilities you could slap on Asagi for more damage, starting with the uniques. Again, Elemental Force from the Magic Knight, Assault Attack from the Valkyrie for plus 10% damage for every panel moved. Same theory as with Usalia. You can load up Asagi with high movement items, as well as units you want surrounding her for support purposes, most notably Christo, and move them all a ways before using Comet Disaster for some nice extra damage. And if you have a third extra unique slot, Bullying from the Imp for plus 30% damage to enemies at the same or lower level than the unit. For common abilities, To the Death from Lady Samurai for plus 100% damage but minus 100% defense when in revenge mode, Unstable Power from Demon Lord or above of the Chara World for plus 50% stats but minus 20% stats after every turn, Gender Bender for the Bodyguard setup, Purgatory from the Dark Knight for plus 50% crit damage, Mana Scarcity which you can get as a one-time bonus on map 16-3 or in the Chara World on Overlord difficulty 4 plus 50% damage for 30% mana gain, Critical Point from Peta for plus 30% crit damage to enemies not adjacent to the unit, and to complement Comet Disaster specifically, Starbreak from the Sage. Starbreak is a bit of a double-edged sword. It automatically treats enemy star resistances as 0 when attacking with the star element. If enemies are normally weak to star, this is actually bad, but if they're normally strong to it, this puts them in their place. Essentially, it totally evens the playing field in terms of star resistance. An alternative for this can be Comet Blessing from Overlord difficulty of the Chara World, which simply increases star damage by 30%. It's also a great idea to have each of them learn Terra Star from the Sage with the Skillshare squad, and enhance it to its max, just so they have a good normal attack option too if they need to clean up extra units, which you very well may need to. Have 5 Asagis with this setup and equipped with revenge booster weapons, and don't forget professionals and guaranteed crit effects from Curry. Cycle between them all when running the item world. Assuming you can clear each floor with one Asagi, one of them is bound to always be in revenge mode. All the usual suspects for support apply. Christo, plus 4% magic boost with medical insertion from Professor, Angel Song from Celestial Host, Cursed Dance from Sorcerer, Evil Eye from Chimera, Charismatic Novice from Amizel. This is among the most reliable and effective item world setups. It's just a bitch to actually prepare, but it will make grinding for kill bonuses and training bonuses on 20-star difficulty Carnage items much faster. Now, you may be wondering, what is there to do with all of these stats? Well, this is Disgaea we're talking about. There are, of course, some notable super bosses, specifically Carnage Dark, who there's an achievement for defeating, and 2 versions of Baal. Carnage Dark is the boss of the Chapter 16 Carnage stage that's unlocked in the Carnage stage questline. For a recap, at some point in post-game, probably when you unlock the Carnage Dimension, 16 special quests will open up that unlock 1 extra stage in each story chapter that are accessible only in the Carnage Dimension. Chapter 16's Carnage stage, called Evil God of Tyranny, houses this absolute unit, boasting about 50 million in the main 6 stats and a whopping 3 billion health. Defeating him also gets you an extra unique Evility slot for the unit who landed the killing blow, as well as the special Evility Eclipse Power. This boss, however, can easily be defeated even without any equipment by even just one 20 million stat unit. Carnage Dark doesn't really have any crazy Evilities to worry about. Remember, building up your combo with archers is a relatively easy way to massively boost damage. Since I had a bunch of Asagis lying around from running the Comet Disaster item world build, I just used one of them. She got extra stats from Asagi Fan Club and the Foot Soldier Squad. I also still had the Sunshine Rod Curry effect active for 99% star resistance, and of course a professional and 100% crit chance from Curry. My Asagi had on the unique Evilities Elemental Force from the Magic Knight and Bullying from the Imp, with the common Evilities To the Death from Lady Samurai, Purgatory from the Dark Knight, Critical Point from Peta, and Unstable Power from Demon Lord difficulty or above of the Chara World. Carnage Dark starts super far away, but he can teleport to damn near anywhere on the map. I had no support units other than a Professor with medical insertion. I simply took out Asagi with a full revenge meter, and the Professor to buffer for 100% more int. Then, since Overlords don't use up the turn, I fired off Comet Disaster to destroy all the enemies except Carnage Dark, and put Asagi back in the base panel. I waited a few turns for him to teleport near the base panel to kill the Professor. Then I simply brought out 5 archers, targeted Carnage Dark with them, then at the end of the execution targeted him with a +9 Terra Star from Asagi to nuke him into the stratosphere. The more notable super bosses, surprise surprise, Tyrant Overlord Baal. Super Overlord Baal apparently. Now there are 2 versions of this fight, Normal Baal and Carnage Baal. You must defeat Normal Baal to unlock Carnage Baal. The build to unlocking Normal Baal simply appears in the assembly after finishing the main story. If you're able to beat Carnage Dark, I promise you Normal Baal is nothing. While Carnage Dark had 50 million stats and 3 billion health, Baal only has a few 100 million health and about 30 million in stats, except for attack, which is about 60 million. However, this is a rather gimmicky fight. You'll notice that besides Baal himself, there are a lot of other normal enemies, but there's also a Baal bit. In fact, there are 4 Baals and 4 Baal bits behind them. Defeating the Baal bits is actually your win condition. Technically, you don't have to kill any of the other units on the map. However, the Baal bits won't take any damage until you at least kill each of their respective Guardian Baals. Also, all 4 Baals have their oh so lovely unique ability we all know and love, Ultimate Force, which attacks units every time they come out of the base panel, and since there are 4 Baals, this strikes 4 times. You'll want a 20 million stat unit to survive this, but given their rather pitiful amount of HP, that's all you need. You see, all the Baals are in the same squad, and likewise all the Baal bits are in the same squad, which leaves them wide open to squad attacks. If you throw some 20 million stat units in 20-member squads, make them the leaders of said squads, and put them in revenge mode with revenge booster weapons or something, you can easily move towards a Baal, squad attack it, and then do the same to a Baal bit in the same turn. I used some Asagis because again I had them lying around from the Comet Disaster item world, so a Curry effect with a Sunshine Rod as the main ingredient for 99% star resistance on Asagi, and also professionals and guaranteed crits from Thimbles in the Curry. Extra stats from Asagi Fan Club, and some stat and attack raising abilities such as Elemental Force and Assault Attack, since you'll be moving a lot of panels to get to the Baals and Baal bits. Also things like Heavy Stance, To the Death, Unstable Power, etc, etc. This will easily get you there. For defeating Normal Baal, you get a special accessory called an Axle Gear, which starts at 4 movement, the highest out of any item, tied with the Barefoot X. It also comes with an Overclocker unique Innocent, which just makes you teleport instead of moving normally, and lets you move directly past enemies and obstacles. Now, when you defeat Normal Baal, the bill for unlocking Carnage Baal appears in the assembly. Carnage Baal is a little different from Normal Baal. The general setup with the Baals and Baal bits is the same, but now you'll notice the entire map is covered in geo panels. There are 5 colors. 4 colors over the majority of the map, including 1 Baal and Baal bit per color, and all of those 4 have the same effects: attack plus 50%, enemy boost plus 50%, and SP heal. Then there are some yellow spots, including right around and including the base panel and on 2 of the corners. The yellow tiles have defense minus 100, ally damage 50, and magic range plus 1. The Baals here at 0-star difficulty have 99 million in all stats and around 30 billion health, with the Baal bit sitting around 50 to 70 billion health. At 20 stars, their main 6 stats don't change since they were already capped anyway, but their health is now also at the max at 99 billion. Blue Eyes Mew has a great strategy for doing this with just 2 20 million base stat units, or 40 million after hitting the 100% stat boost cap. So that is the strategy I will be outlining here. I'll link his video in the description as well. First off, there's one major obstacle we need to overcome before we can even start, and that is Baal's base panel attack. It deals a fixed 2 2 billion damage between all 4 hits. Curry can help us with this. However, it is the grindiest part of the setup. Using Carnage elixirs as ingredients in Curry will each boost your HP by a fixed certain amount, with the cap on extra HP you can get this way being 2 billion. Hey, that's just the amount we need. This means literally anyone will be able to survive coming out of the base panel with one of these curries. The catch is that to reach this cap, you will need 185 Carnage elixirs dumped into a curry, 3 for the main ingredients and 182 more in other. The only way to grind for Carnage elixirs is just from getting them in a Carnage Item world through the bonus gauge or the special item shop in the Innocent Town. If you have the Comet Disaster set up, you can just blow through floors instantly in a relatively high ranking Carnage item to farm these, but even then, it'll take a while. There's one other big idea at play before we even think about abusing Evilities, which is that the strategy involves throwing every single geo symbol that can help us into one colored area. Specifically, these are the 3 other attack plus 50% symbols and the 2 defense minus 50% from the yellow corners. To do this, we'll use Zeroken, because his overload splits them into 5 separate units, and then you can abuse Mon-Toss with some monsters to get them all the way to the color you want. That color, by the way, is green. No questions asked. That's because the green ball bit has an annoying Evility that drastically reduces the damage it takes from over 3 panels away. As you can imagine, we'll be using squad attacks, so if we target any of the other ball bits, this Evility will kick in. Also, you can throw the enemy boost symbol that'll already be in the green area on top of the ball bit to get rid of it. Technically, your 2 attackers can be anyone, but it helps if one is Usalia, simply because when she's transformed after her overload, she can fire off support attacks from literally anywhere and help build up your combo quickly. The other unit can really be anything. I already had a strong Sage, and that's what Blue Eyes Mew used, so that's what I used. Literally everyone else, even Zeroken, is purely for utility. For attackers, make sure they're equipped with int-based weapons as usual, so Usalia has an int monster weapon and the Sage has a staff, so they can actually use the int stat when attacking. And since we'll be using squad attacks, make sure they're both leaders of full 20-member squads with at least 225 prisoners applied to them. The abilities for your attackers are going to be exactly the same, except for one. For the purposes of this demonstration, Usalia is squad attacking Baal, and the Sage is squad attacking the Baal bit. You'll notice that a lot of the Evilities abuse the absolute hell out of Baal's base panel attack. Unique Evilities: Assault Attack from the Valkyrie, since you'll be able to move a lot of panels to get to Baal, Acceleration Shot from the Pirate, which will kick in for the other 3 targets of your squad attacks, and Rage Charge from the Bear. Rage Charge increases damage by 5% for every hit taken by the unit. And oh man, since Baal attacks 4 times for each time you leave the base panel, you can just keep healing and coming back out again to charge this thing up all the way to the plus 200% damage cap. We'll address how to do this effectively soon. For common Evilities, you have the usual Purgatory from the Dark Knight and Critical Point from Peta, both to help increase crit damage. Then you have Nerdy from the Kunoichi class. This is supposed to increase your stats by plus 10% each time you evade an attack, but for some reason it also triggers from Baal's base panel attack. The speculation I've read is that something about it dealing fixed damage and thus not using the normal damage calculation sets this thing off. So while you're charging Rage Charge, you'll naturally also reach your plus 100% stat boost cap on the way. This is why we don't need any other components that increase stats. Then there's King's Dignity from the Twin Heads for plus 50% damage to boss enemies, for obvious reasons. Impact Charge from the Slime for plus 10% damage for every non-elemental attack taken. Baal's base panel attacks are non-elemental, so GG. This will also get you a plus 200% damage boost. And finally, there are the abilities that will be different. For the Sage, who's targeting the Baal bit, we have Fly Swatter from the Archer class, which deals plus 100% damage to flying units. The Baal bits are, in fact, flying units. For Usalia, we have I Won't Lose from Almaz, which gives you plus 40% attack from having less than half HP. Since Baal is going to obliterate your HP, this applies. Now we have Zeroken, who's going to do a whole lot of throwing. You'll want him to have the unique ability Pro Tosser from the Wrestler. This makes it so that throwing from the panel he starts from doesn't use up an action. Normally this would just be the base panel, but when he duplicates himself from his overload, the clones use the panel they spawn on as their starting panel. This still doesn't actually help with throwing the geo symbols, but funnily enough, it does make it so that he can throw your attackers away from the Baal they're targeting, so they have to walk further and build up more assault attack charge. Then that Zeroken can go throw a geo symbol. You'll also want the unique ability Curse Dance from the Sorcerer, which increases the damage enemies take by 3%. Cool thing about Zeroken's overload is that his copies really do copy everything, even his abilities, which means once he duplicates, this will apply 5 times for 15% more damage. For commons, Vacuum Lift from the Wrestler, which increases the range you can lift stuff from by 2 panels. Then lastly, Dark Song from Fake Asagi, not real Asagi, which increases ally stats by 2% and decreases enemy stats by 2%. 10%. The enemies are immune to stat decreases, so that won't help, but 2 of them have Evil Eye, which will decrease your stats by a combined 10%. Slapping Dark Song on Zeroken will make it stack 5 times with his overload and apply that 10% right back. Along with Zeroken, again, you'll want some monsters. 3 Sea Angels will do the trick since they have 5 throwing range. I had a 4th just for good measure, but you don't actually need it. Then you want archers, because of course. These are your bread and butter for building a combo because of their inherent unique ability, Support Attack, which lets them fire off additional support attacks whenever an ally in their attack range attacks, letting them all farm off each other. There are some abilities we can put on them so that you only need a few for a full 20 hit combo, which both utilize a gun being the archer's main weapon, so equip them all with guns. These are the common abilities Bullet Set from the real Asagi, not fake Asagi, and Flying Bullets from the Gunner class. The former lets you attack an extra time if you perform a normal attack with a gun, and the latter makes your attack range go all around you instead of just in a straight line like a gun normally would. And again, in regards to combos, Usalia being in her transformed state will have her firing off support attacks as well. There are only a few more small things to set up for utility. Christo, because duh, and put Angel Song on him. A Professor, also duh, and also with Angel Song. This is naturally so she can boost your attackers int with a plus 100% magic boost, which only needs to be enhanced to plus 4 thanks to her inherent unique ability Medical Insertion. Then a Maid. She needs to have Licensed Caregiver from her own Maid class, because the Baal's base panel attacks actually drain your SP as well as your HP. Everyone's SP is going to be at 0, so you can use an SP recovery item on multiple units at once with Licensed Caregiver to make them able to use the abilities they need to, namely your attacker so they can squad attack, yes that costs 1 SP, and your Professor so she can use magic boost. Then Mao. Just from existing, his inherent unique ability gives some nice extra damage by boosting the damage that allies within 3 panels of him deal by plus 20%, and simultaneously increasing the damage that enemies within 3 panels of him take by plus 20%. Also have Angel Song on him. Now on as many support units as you can, have the unique ability Curse Dance. It's most effective on Zeroken because his overload essentially multiplies its effect, but having it on your archers, monsters, and other support units will really add up and make a difference. Also, transfer the overload Indomitable Spread to at least 9 of your support units. This comes from the minor story overlord Arinder Z, and it heals every ally on the map to full. This is what you will abuse to keep coming out of the base panel with your attackers to charge up their abilities. Make sure a lot of your units already have full revenge gauges going in. You can do this by passing around some revenge booster weapons and clearing an easy map 4 or 5 times. During the battle, your allies getting hit so much coming out of the base panel will automatically charge up revenge gauges over time, so it's not super pressing with most units, but you'll need some overloads early, particularly Zeroken's right off rip. Naturally, you want a lot of movement on basically everyone involved so they can freely move around. A few Carnage shoes on everyone should do it, but for the very important units like Zeroken and your attackers, you can throw an Axle gear into the mix too just to be very sure. And finally, do I even need to say it at this point? Make sure you have Professionals. Technically, you don't actually need 100% crit curry since everyone will end up in revenge mode anyway, which will guarantee crits, but it wouldn't hurt to throw 100 Thimbles in there along with your Carnage elixirs. You'll get the effect of both. That is the entire setup to take down 20-star Carnage Baal. Here is how the fight goes. Step 1. Throw the Geo Symbols. Take out Zeroken and use his overload to spawn his clones. The green area will already have an attack plus 50% symbol, so the symbols you're targeting to throw onto it are the 3 other attack plus 50% symbols and the 2 defense minus 50% symbols. This is 5 symbols for 5 Zerokens, but only throw 4 of them at first. You'll save 1 Zeroken to help your attackers charge up Assault Attack before he finally throws the last symbol. Keep moving all your monsters around so they can use Mon-Toss to redirect all the symbols into the green area. Step 2. Charge your Evilities. Take out everyone who has Indomitable Spread along with your 2 attackers. Every time your attackers come out of the base panel, they get plus 20% attack from Rage Charge, so you need to take them out 10 times to reach the plus 200% attack. The reason I said you only need 9 Indomitable Spreads is because you don't actually want to heal them the 10th time. Being at low health will make Usalia's I Won't Lose ability kick in for extra damage. Simply keep taking them both out, use Indomitable Spread, put them back in, rinse repeat, until your Rage Charge is at the plus 200% cap. At this time, Impact Charge will also be at the plus 200% cap, and Nerdy will be hitting the plus 100% stat cap. Step 3. Prepare for the attack. Take out everyone else, your Maid, Mao, Christo, and your Professor. Use the Maid to apply an SP healing item to your 2 attackers and your Professor so they can use their squad attacks and buffs. Then with your last Zeroken back at his starting tile, you can throw your attackers away from the green area so they have to walk further to it and charge up more assault attack. You can throw both of them without using any of your turn, thanks to Pro Tosser. After that, you can go ahead and use them to throw the last remaining geosymbol into the green area. Then move everyone into position. Your attackers and Christo will go on these 3 tiles between the ball and ball bit. This is so that they can still reach their targets with squad attack, and both still get the accuracy and damage buff from being adjacent to Christo. From there, you can also have your professor buff everyone with magic boost, move Mao adjacent to the enemy boost symbol and throw it onto the ball bit to get rid of it. From this tile, everyone is affected by his inherent unique. Your attackers get their plus 20% damage dealt, the balls and ball bits will get their plus 20% damage taken. Surround the remaining adjacent panels of your attackers with Angel Song units if you have them, just for good measure. Now use Usalia's Overload to transform her. And finally, step 4, launch the attack. Move 3 archers in front of Baal and queue up normal attacks. They'll each attack twice with guns thanks to Bullet Set, along with their normal support attacks. And Usalia will join in as well. If you haven't buffed yet, you can queue up Magic Boost next. Now queue up Usalia's squad attack on Baal, and then the Sage's squad attack on the green ball bit. That order is obviously important. The ball bits cannot be damaged if Baal is still alive. If all goes well, you'll hit a combo of 20 for 3 times the damage, your units will be buffed from Magic Boost, Usalia will annihilate the balls, and the Sage will then proceed to annihilate the ball bits. That is 20-star Carnage Baal down. From this, you get the Great Ball Horn weapon, although you didn't have to be 20 stars, you just did this for bragging rights, it doesn't even give you an achievement. However, speaking of achievements, now that you're a god among gods, let's go clean those up. The achievements for Disgaea 5 actually aren't too demanding, especially compared to the last few entries. There are a total of 50 achievements, not counting the Platinum achievement for getting all the other achievements. Many, as usual, you'll have already gotten naturally over the course of grinding and getting strong. These include one for clearing every chapter of the main story for a total of 16 right there, fill a bonus gauge all the way to +9, if you haven't gotten this somehow you can just spam fillers, complete 20 quests from the quest shop, view 20 skits which will undoubtedly just pop during the main story. These are little conversations between the main cast that pop up at the base automatically or under certain conditions. When one is available, you'll see this event icon show up for all the characters involved. Simply talk to one in the base who will have an exclamation point over their head, and the skit will trigger. Reach the goal in the Chara World, reach the goal in the Chara World in Super Overlord difficulty, use an overload, capture 100 prisoners, force pass an assembly bill by beating up the senators, reach level 9999 on a unit, enter the Carnage Dimension, which is the proper Carnage Dimension, not just the post-game scenario that is confusingly also called Carnage Dimension, get 10 billion hell, obtain an epic item, which means getting an item to 100 rarity, again through increasing training bonuses, and maxing out an item's level, which only means to level 500, by the way. You don't need to limit break and go all the way up to 9999. That's for a different game. And of course for defeating Carnage Dark, which I already went over. Now I'll go into a little more detail on the rest of the achievements since they're a little bit more out of the way. First, eat a 100-day curry. The description for this is confusing, but it does mean eating a curry that's been sitting for 100 days. You'll very likely already have this, but if you haven't done it yet, you can simply make a curry in the shop, back out without eating it, and clear 100 battles before eating it to pop the trophy. This makes the curry effect last for 100 battles, so it's very useful. Pass a bill by paying at least 100 million hell at once. Having to pay this much usually only applies to post-game bills that you can only pass one time. However, the I want a trophy bill, which you can pass to simply get a trophy or an achievement, will also demand a hell of a lot, a few 100 billion in fact. This is also one time, but if you're in post-game, you can easily start a new cycle by talking to this pirate in the corner of the hub world here, and then just immediately go back into the Dark Assembly and the bill will be there. Get a game over, pretty self-explanatory. Activate Revenge Mode 100 times. If you've grinded enough Item World with Murmur of Rage or Comet Disaster, you'll have this, but otherwise a good way to grind it if you don't yet is to have a few units with the common abilities Self-Sacrifice from the Shroom and Force Counter from the Martial Artist. The former raises all allies' revenge gauge by 20% when the unit dies, on top of the gauge allies get anyway when a unit dies, and the latter forces enemies to counterattack. If you don't think the unit will die from it, you can throw on Secret Recon from the Ninja too, which sets your max HP to 1. Perform a combo skill. These are special skills in the main story that only specific characters can use and require specific characters to be on the map at the same time. An example is Supreme Curry, which Killia can use if he and Usalia are deployed. Jump 1000 times at the base. Just fucking do it. Likewise, hit allies in the base 100 times. If you have someone in the the life support unit squad and it's leveled to at least level 3, you'll be able to punch people in the base. Just punch people 100 times. Summon your Netherworld. Again, this is simply done by having at least one bonus gauge level and choosing Summon Netherworld in the menu while on a map. You'll need to have unlocked the editor by getting far enough into the main story to be able to do this. Repel a Netherworld. Same deal, but you summon your Netherworld against an opposing invader's Netherworld in the item world. If yours wins, the achievement will pop. Nullify all geopanels in a chain of 5 or more. This is easy to do on map 2-3. Simply move all the geopanels onto the colored tiles and then hit one of them. The colors will change 5 times, with the last time being the nullification symbol to get rid of all the colored tiles, and you'll have your achievement. Use the Hot Springs Mystery Room. This is a specific mystery room you can find in the item world, and it simply has a hot spring that will either heal or hurt your units. Good luck. If you're trying to hunt for this, you can set the item world to the mystery route for increased mystery room spawns, and or deploy units on the map with the common Evility Explorer from the pirate, which increases the chance of a mystery room appearing next floor if the unit is deployed. Pass the trophy bill in the assembly. Simply pass the bill in the assembly for 50,000 mana called I want a trophy and you'll get a trophy. Defeat Proto Dark Death. Dark Death appears randomly from eggs that have a chance to drop on each floor, although you can pass a bill called Challenge a Crazy Opponent to guarantee he appears in the next egg that's dropped. Simply just go into a low rank item for a weak Dark Death. Unlock all character classes. All classes are unlocked through quests in the quest shop. For humanoids, the requirements of these quests ask you to get a certain amount of subclasses for other classes you already have unlocked. Quests for new classes will only appear in the quest shop when you've unlocked the required classes, so they'll keep appearing as you complete more. Again, you can easily do this by borrowing the Sage's Geoblast skill, using the Skillshare squad, and death-blowing a super strong Geo symbol in the item world. For monster classes, quests to unlock them will simply appear once you've defeated them in a map, and the requirements to fulfill the quests themselves are usually just item fetch quests. There are only 2 exceptions to all this, which are the Celestial Host, whose quest doesn't appear no matter what until chapter 9 of the story, and the generic Asagi class. For that one, you need to unlock actual Asagi by clearing her postgame map, Postgame Scenario 1, and leveling her to level 500. Discover 100 Netherworlds through Nether Research. This is just a grind. Simply make some high-level units from the recruiter, send a few per Netherworld, wait until they discover a new one, pull them out, rinse repeat. Discover 100 in total, and you'll get the achievement. Obtain the legendary weapon in the item world. This refers to one of the rank 40 weapon types. Each weapon has 3, and one of them is obtained through a special mystery room in the item world, which only appears in weapons and will contain that rank 40 for that weapon type. If you're in a normal weapon, you'll need to have reached at least level 50 of mastery for that weapon with any unit. If you're in a Carnage weapon, you'll have to have reached level 100 mastery in that weapon with any unit, and have found one of the other rank 40 types of that weapon to claim it. Needless to say, just use a normal weapon if you're hunting for this. Same mystery room hunting strategies apply. Explore Evility from the pirate and or be on the mystery route in the item world. Get a population of 100 in the hub. This does not mean recruiting 100 characters, it actually means interrogating 100 prisoners and choosing the Make Citizen option to release them. Get 50 one-time bonuses. In just about every story map, the highest bonus gauge level contains an item that you can only obtain once before it's replaced by a random item afterwards, like the rest of the bonus gauge. This is a one-time bonus. If you use Land Decimator with the Sage, you'll automatically hit the bonus on a lot of maps, but otherwise you can use fillers to help you along as you see fit. Get 20 combos. This is a very misleading description. It doesn't mean 20 individual combos. They really dropped the ball on some of these achievement and ability descriptions, huh? No, this one means one combo of 20. You can build up a combo by attacking the same unit consecutively within the same execution. Spamming as many archers as possible on an enemy is a beautiful way to do this. 9 will get you there easy, and that's probably overkill. The very last trophy we must cover is 10 billion damage, which is much easier to achieve than it sounds. There are an incredible amount of ways to do this, but here's what I did with stuff I mostly just happened to already have. I used one of the Asagis I had for Comet Disaster item world at 20 million base stats, nothing extra from equipment. Sunshine Rod Curry active for 99% star resistance, 100 Thimbles in it too for 100% crit chance, and a professional innocent of course. Stat boost from the Asagi fan club and foot soldier squad, unique Evilities Elemental Force from Magic Knight and Bullying from Imp, common Evilities to the death from Lady Samurai, unstable power from the Chara World at Demon Lord difficulty or above, Purgatory from the Dark Knight, critical point from Peta, and I Magichange with Usalia so Asagi gets her precious people unique Evility. Surround her with units who have Angel Song to buff her damage even more. Have 5 archers to build up a combo before Asagi unleashes a +9 Terra Star, ba-bam. And with that devastating attack, you have 100%ed Disgaea 5 complete. Congratulations. Take a nice, long breather in the hot springs. You've earned it. Disgaea 5, As you know all too well by now, is a huge game with a lot of moving parts when it comes to mechanics and strategy, but I hope I could help you navigate it just a little bit better. If that is the case, or if you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. There will be much more NIS content and guides to come. I've been Mags, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.